NFL Draft, the New York Jets select Mekhi Becton.
Going down again. It's Quinton Williams.
Fighting through contact, fighting through offensive line, being double team, multiple moves stacked into one, just a play of pure domination. This is actual film, this is actual football talk. It's a football show, we're supposed to talk football, not storylines.
And you are listening to the 44th edition of Blitz and the third live stream, I believe, Kyle, that we're doing now. Sorry for the delay. No, we said we were going to start at 6 o'clock, but unfortunately, due to some technical difficulties, we are starting at 6:22. But hey, we're here. We got a comment in the chat already, Kyle, that said, I bet this live stream went great during practice, which I find absolutely hilarious. Kyle, what's up, man?
Not too much, Joe. Doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Doing good, minus the technical difficulties. But doing well now that we got it all figured out. Obviously with the Jets, this season's not too great, but obviously looking forward to the draft, looking forward to the Jaguars hopefully winning a game, the Texans hopefully winning a game, which next week is big, by the way, because we got
I
the
know.
Texans and
Why does
Jaguars.
Minshew have to be out this week? Out of all weeks,
If you look at the Jaguars schedule too, it's
tough.
It's tough. So this is one of the games they really need to take. You figure the Texans with Deshaun Watson, they're going to win a game. The Giants, I think they still have to play the Redskins, the Redskins, the Bengals, and I think the Cowboys. So they'll probably win a game. So I'm really concerned about the Jaguars right now because the teams who concern me, I don't know about you. Personally, it's not really the Giants. It's not even really the Texans. It's now just the Jaguars. So
I've been saying that for the longest. And the big problem is the Jags are going to have the strength of schedule advantage over us. So if we both finish with one win, the Jags are going to get the pick.
Well, now the problem too is with the Jets schedule, and I think they probably will go 0-16. There is a chance to go 1-15. I'm worried about the Patriots ×2.
So am I.
I'm worried about the Chargers.
And a little bit about the Browns too, because it's a home game for the Jets. Although, because Baker Mayfield is hit or miss. And now, I know Beckham wasn't having a great year or whatever, but he's out for the season too.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we'll figure that all out. The call-in number should be, I don't know if it's posted on the live chat, but if not, I'll get the call-in number to people soon. Again, relatively not rusty with this stuff, but new to this stuff. So the number should be up soon. If you do want to call in again, won't kill you, but I'm definitely going to contest some opinions if they are false. Kyle, let's get into some of the topics before there's a call-in number on cue. 818-573-5427. Again, that's 818-573-5427. Don't have a mailbag or anything like that this week because we have so many questions and things like that. I think we're also periscoping on Twitter. We might not be, but I think we are. So we should be getting a ton of questions pouring in. So I didn't want to do too many topics and get all that. But let's go over some of the news that has happened the last couple of weeks. In terms of the Jets and their trading, since you've been on the stream, what have been your thoughts about some of the trades that have happened? Le'Veon Bell, McClendon, Avery Williamson overall.
Well, I'm happy about all of them because I've been pro tank since week one ended. Since we got trounced in week one, I've always been pro tank because it's Trevor Lawrence. So, you lose McClendon, great contributing player. That's going to help the tank. You lose Le'Veon Bell. some people want to say he's washed. He's not what he was. Whatever. Still, that's going to help the tank out. And you trade Avery, Blake, I'm of the opinion Blake Cashman is total garbage. So, that's going to help the tank as well, even though Avery hasn't played as well as he did 2 years ago when he was with us. So I'm for all of them. And of course, that doesn't even factor in the picks. I'm more happy about it from the tank perspective, but the picks is of course good because, the teams and Joe Douglas, going back to the Baltimore model, Baltimore always stockpiled picks. One of the reasons they always got a lot of picks is because they would get compensatory picks because they never spent big in free agency. So Joe Douglas, you could see that kind of through line that you could see that connection to Baltimore right there. So they're finally attempting to do the rebuild right. Finally, McCagnon never did it right. And Idzik, even though, he had a lot of picks one year, he never did it right either. He couldn't draft. So
Yeah, and the thing about it too with the whole Joe Douglas thing is like, and listen, I know they're getting rid of some of these players for like fifth, but for Avery Williamson it was a seventh, and Avery to move up for a 2022 fifth, and then Jordan Willis, who is funny. I forget exactly which beat reporter it was or whatever NFL pundit it was. He was like, "Oh my God, like this is the wrong move for the Jets. This is so terrible." When he's played like no reps the last 3
Yeah,
weeks,
I didn't get that.
no sense. So you're moving up around, and then the same thing. When they traded somebody else too. I'm blanking on the name, but even Le'Veon Bell, like I didn't want to put this out on Twitter. I agree with Stabo. We always have our Slack channel where we're always talking. And Le'Veon Bell didn't look too good against the Jets. He is a little bit slower. He's not what he used to be. Obviously, the Jets didn't help him out, but he didn't look too good. So dumping those salaries, and I think Avery Williamson somewhere anywhere from like $2 to $3 million for the rest of the year that they're saving, and they're moving up 2 rounds. I'm completely fine with it. Now with your Blake Cashman comment, it's not even necessarily about him being a bad player at this point, because I do think he had some flashes, let's say, in college and even in his rookie year, even though, like I said, the guy who never missed a tackle in college definitely did miss a few tackles in college, because we always talk about that. But the problem with him is right now he came and developed because he's always injured. So what is the best ability, Kyle? Availability. People always talk about that. It's recycled over and over and over again. But the thing that's interesting about Joe Douglas that I want to bring up, since we kind of talked about him doing the tank in the right way, and looking at his draft class so far, which we'll get into a little bit deeper, I think a lot of people are kind of criticizing him in terms of his free agency moves. What are your thoughts on that, and why should people not be criticizing him on free agency moves? I want to see if you have the same mindset as I do, because a lot of people will look at his signings and say, "Oh, this year's terrible. What the hell is Joe Douglas doing? Oh, this guy's terrible. What the hell is he doing?" So what are your kind of thoughts on people criticizing his free agency so far?
Yeah, so his biggest free agent signing, if I'm not mistaken, in terms of dollar amount, was McGovern, right?
Yeah. Well,
okay.
No, him and Fant were pretty close in
Well,
salary.
but Fant's deal you can get out of it within 1 year, if I'm not mistaken. Whereas McGovern,
Yeah.
I think you're tied into him for a couple of years.
Yeah, you're committed for a couple of years.
Okay, so now I've watched all the coaches film, and I've been watching the offensive line, and as far as I can tell, this offensive line is, and I understand what I'm about to say is not like it's saying much, because how bad the offensive line was over recent years, but in my opinion, it's significantly upgraded from recent years. That doesn't mean that they're good,
True.
but it is a significant upgrade. And I was watching the Bills game with my brother 2 weeks ago, or a day ago, and he was saying that, oh, McGovern's been a big disappointment. And I heard somebody else say that in person too. And I think I've also seen Jets fans on Twitter say, oh, McGovern. And I saw that you get into it with those hacks from the Jet Press, where they were expecting McGovern to reach a guy 3 gaps over or whatever.
Yeah, it's impossible.
And so I was curious, after I finished watching the Bills coach film this past week, after I watched every game, to see what his PFF grade was, because I had no idea. And it was like a 50.0, which is like supposedly terrible. And I'm not seeing that. I've been pretty pleased with him. I see a guy who's very good at reaching nose techs in one technique, guys. I see him being very good in that regard.
Yeah. No, I think he's been a little bit disappointing in terms of not him one-on-one with guys. I think in terms of stunt and blitz pickups, again, I'm not sure if you went back and like watched the shows after we did the live stream, but there's some times where he's committing a little bit too early, looking to hammer or plow guys, as I like to use the terminology. So I can agree with that. It's not necessarily on a 1v1 type deal where he's losing. I think in terms of like his connection and his communication with guys next to him, he's getting a little bit antsy. I don't know if he trusts guys like he did maybe in Denver, whatever it may be. So I think he's been a little bit of a disappointment, but from the broader scale of looking at his free agency class, I'm having issues with people kind of listen. If he signed Tremaine Johnson, if he was signing a Tremaine Johnson to a 5-year deal worth $80 million and the guy was tied down here for 3 years, yes, criticize it. But him signing guys to 1-year contracts and them not playing well, isn't as big of an indictment on Joe Douglas as some people think it is. Obviously, people, oh, well, why not sign this guy or that guy? We've talked about this plenty of times. Clowney's not going to be here long term. Oh, we'll trade for Ngakoue. Ngakoue is not going to re-sign here, and he's a lot of money for, I think, a player who is largely overrated, in my opinion. Sign this guy or that guy. So I think a lot of people are looking at his free agency moves in terms of like, okay, he signed this guy, he should be great, he's going to be here forever. When realistically, you have to look at it as they were 1-year rentals. on a team who Joe Douglas did not expect to win. And say what you want about Robbie Anderson being here and being let go. And obviously Jamal Adams getting traded. I think anybody who really wanted to build on the team last year and go for it in Darnold's year 3 didn't have a realistic view of what the team was. Because if you kept those players and you try to build, you'd fall epically short. You might maybe get to the wild card round, maybe at the very, very best, this year, maybe next year you get to the divisional. So, and then we know what that happens. We know what happens when you do that with the Jets. You set yourself back 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line. Just look at the 2015 Jets. So I think a lot of people are kind of looking at it as free agents and they want them to make big impacts. And it's not really the right way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's finally being done the right way. And, I was a little surprised. I was chatting with old friend Kyle Fahey the other day, and he pulled up some of the next gen stats and showed Robbie Anderson's route chart. And I was a little skeptical because all the highlights I was seeing on TV was Robbie catching, downfield balls, that's what I've seen his whole career. But, some people were saying, well, and he's actually turned into a complete receiver. I have seen him running a lot of, routes that we didn't typically see him run with the Jets. So he is being used in a wider variety of ways. And surprisingly too, I also saw Robbie breaking some tackles in some highlights this year. So I'm not ready to say that I've been wrong on that or whatever, but I still, I still am not super upset like a lot of Jets fans are that Robbie walked. And, and if you keep Jamal Adams and if you keep Robbie, and not that Joe Douglas had this big mastermind at the beginning of the year, there's no doubt Joe Douglas was trying to win games this year and trying to be competitive this year. Of course he is. But I think now at this point, he's, just focused on the future, of course.
Yeah, I don't think he went all in. It's not like he was trying to get guys like Logan Ryan and Jadeveon Clowney here and then setting the team back for the future. He looked at the team realistically and said, okay, we're not going to win. Get some guys who are gonna hold the fort for a year or two, and then obviously when we have more money, when we have more draft picks, we'll make bigger investments into guys. And also he might have looked at Sam Darnold. I don't think any GM realistically who's a smart guy would look at Sam Darnold in his first 2 years and said he is definitely the guy of the future. I think we obviously had a much higher opinion of him coming into the year, but at this point, I'm sure we'll talk about that. I'm sure we'll get questions about that on the live chat, which there's 63 in here. We got like 20 people on Twitter trying to manage all this. First time going live on Twitter and all this stuff. And obviously it sucks right now. There's times I said it in the Slack to Robbie, watching these Jets games, I'm kind of just watching with a blank stare, and I watch the game like, what did even happen? Like, I don't even remember what just happened, because I have to watch the film anyway. So I watch on broadcast and they're already down like so many points from us. Like I'm so immune to the Jets playing bad at this point. So I get the people who are pretty frustrated with the Jets, but again, stick around for the young guys, the film breakdowns of the Bectons and the Quinton Williams and the Ashton Davises, who will hopefully be here for a couple of years. And obviously, Kyle, we have something coming up in the, is the deadline at 4:00 tomorrow? I believe it's at 4:00 tomorrow.
I'm pretty sure all the deadlines are usually at 4. So that's my guess would be too. What
are your thoughts on that? Who should the Jets get rid of? I'm sure you're going to agree with me. Pretty much every single person that you can who's not going to be here. But is there any specific names that come to mind?
Marcus May keeps coming to my mind because I'm not sure you're going to resign him. And I think that if you trade him away, your defense is going to take an even bigger dive. Right. So as a pro tank guy like me, you just want
to get rid of anybody who's going to make an impact positively.
Well, I don't want to get rid of Quinton easily, although I'm not saying
no.
And I know you're a big fan of Quinton. I would be willing to part ways with him if it were for the right price. Like if you're getting a first rounder and something else. Okay.
What's that something else?
Well, I don't know. I mean, maybe like if you got a first and a third, I might be willing to do it. And I guess it would depend on which team's giving you a first, because, a first round pick, if you're getting an early first round pick, it's very different from a late first round pick. So you'd have to kind of assess which kind of team is going to give it to you.
Yeah, no, of course. So let's say it's a first and a third. What's your cutoff? I want to put you on the spot here. What's your the lowest you're going to take for Quinton Williams?
If I can get a mid first rounder,
like 16.
Would I do it for 16? No, I probably wouldn't. But I don't know if I'd regret that. No, I wouldn't do it for a mid first rounder. No.
Yeah. So my thing with Quinton Williams is, if you really look at the defensive tackles over the last couple of years, and especially considering his age, and I know people are going to say, oh, he's on a second year of his contract and have to re-sign him in a couple of years, but how many defensive tackles have really played better than he has this year in the last couple of years who've been drafted in the first and second rounds. I can't really think of any that come off the top of my mind. I know Kinlaw's playing pretty well at first, but then he dropped off. I know Simmons from the Titans has been playing pretty well, but Quinton Williams is still producing a little bit better than he has, I believe, in terms of stats. And obviously, we know
that was the name I was going to mention.
The thing with Quinton Williams too, which we've discussed plenty of times, was the fact that, again, not playing in a system with any edge rushers, so the pocket doesn't collapse and force him to step up. There's a game against the Colts. I'm not sure what all of his statistical numbers are in terms of the snaps he played, but or in every game, but he played like 55% of snaps. That doesn't help. Your secondary not being able to cover, getting the ball out quickly happens plenty of times where he's getting to the quarterback, they throw the ball. And the fourth point of why his stats might not be up to snuff for some of these people, one, have been some penalties. Two, I think last week Mahomes that was an intentional grounding in my opinion, and it was almost a sack. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. I'll have to look in the film again. But the fourth reason is with Greg Williams' defense. I know you watched it on film, Kyle. A lot of stunting, a lot of two gapping. He's a one gap penetrator. That's what he does. So when you're asking him to hold up or pull the center into the guard to let Hewitt blitz up the A gap, obviously it's not cohesive to him getting the stats. It's opening other guys up. So I think Quinton Williams is a lot better than people think he is, and he's consistently getting better and better, and he's young. And again, once you put him on a team with an edge rusher and some secondary players, I think he could be a guy who's getting 9, 10, 11 sacks a year, which is a fantastic for a defensive tackle. So I'm not trading him for even a mid-round first and a third. I think his value is more important than that.
To your point too, yeah, I think that I think your last point about Quinton was really the biggest one. The way that he's used, stop using him that way. Please stop using that way, especially since he's flashing more now. Kind of just let him do his thing. And I think Myles Garrett publicly criticized Greg Williams for the way that he was used at times. Like, this is a fucking monster, Myles Garrett. Just let him rush. Nothing fancy. Just let him, whether he's going to go inside or outside, let him be the judge of that, and just let him destroy the offensive tackle. Don't send Myles Garrett on fucking stunts. You don't need to. He'll create pressure on his own.
And especially with the Browns, who had more defensive line talent than the Jets. You said you're talking about trading Marcus May. Is that because you don't think he should resign here? Do you think he's a little bit overrated? What are you expecting from Marcus May?
I like Marcus May, and to be fair and honest with myself, I hated the Marcus May draft pick years ago. I didn't like the age. The limited tape that I have, I was not impressed. But I think he's a very solid player, especially in the traditional role that you use him in. Like, early when he had that big game against Buffalo where he had all the stats and stuff, people were like, oh yeah, he kind of replaced Jamal Adams, and he's doing a lot of he's not Jamal Adams at all. They're two very different players, but he's a really solid player. I mean, you want to talk about a guy who's got decent range, pretty good range, reads route combinations very well, good communicator in the secondary, and as for a free safety type of dude that has range, very solid tackler. So I like him a lot, and I think that. And look at Ashton Davis. Ashton Davis got absolutely torched by Tyreek Hill. I mean, I have to watch the coach's film, and I haven't yet.
He got turned around.
From what I remember,
I don't know what it was.
Yeah, it was a corner post. And
I know that. I don't know if it was 3. I don't know if it was 1. I don't know if it was. I don't know.
What
3 it was.
But on the broadcast angle, it looked like Ashton Davis was responsible. I guess. So my thing with trading May is, I think, out of all the players on defense, aside from Quinton, he's going to hurt the most if you lose him, I think. So that helps the tank.
McDougal's being injured now too. Apparently he's going to be a couple of weeks too. So you'd have Mateus Farley and Ashton Davis backing up guys like Pierre Desir and Bless Austin, who I think has been a pretty big disappointment as well.
Yeah. Now, supposedly there hasn't been interest for May, a lot of interest. So
what would you think? What do you think they would get from? And then after we're going to talk some trade deadline. I want to get to some.
I find it hard to believe that you can get more than a 4th for him.
Yeah, honestly, it depends. Like, it's kind of a cop out answer. But if the Jets are going to re-sign him long term and they want him to be here for 3, 4, 5 years, yeah, sure. But if they're unsure at this point, if they want to, then trade him. And I think a 4th or a 5th for, I would say, a decent to solid safety makes sense. The NFL trade is like, they don't make a lot of sense. Sometimes we're like, they get Willis, whatever for,
I didn't get that
for a 6th, but then Desmond King just got traded today for a sixth, who's like a really good secondary player for the Chargers. So I don't get
unless
how
he's
that
been
happens.
terrible. Unless he's been terrible this year, but he has been really good over recent years.
Yeah, but exactly. But it's like that's why some people are criticizing Douglas. Oh, this is a stupid trade. But then you can also turn that a pick around and maybe get a Desmond King when the Jets are trying to compete for a Super Bowl.
Yeah, and Calais Campbell, who's been a monster for over recent years, went for a fifth. So
and then didn't Ngakoue just get traded for a second and then went for like a fourth or whatever it was?
Something like that. Yeah.
Would you be open to the idea of trading Crowder? So you're in for May. I'm not in for Quinton Williams at all. Crowder. Some people have talked about that. Me personally, like I don't want to spend too much time on Crowder because I think it's kind of stupid, especially for a guy who's playing really, really well. You need to surround your quarterback next year, whether that be Lawrence. Hopefully. Again, we could talk about Sam Darnold if you want. We can rehash that whole subject. You haven't been watching the show or following me on Twitter if you don't know my opinion on that. Or even Fields if they fall to number 2. I know you got some. I don't know if you had some time to watch Fields or not. Again, I'm not going to comment too
very
harshly.
Very little.
What were you, we'll get back to Jamison Crowder. We'll bounce back to that. But over the very little that you've seen from him, what were your opinions?
Well, I've only watched his tape from last year, so I haven't watched any of his games this year, and supposedly he's been really very good this year, supposedly. But I didn't quite get the hype behind him. And did I say this to you already? But like I was talking to Scott Mason. Scott Mason's like, yeah, I got a buddy who's a really big Ohio State fan.
Yeah,
and he said that, he's Kyler Murray. Like he's like a bigger Kyler Murray. He's not that type of runner at all. I'm not saying he can't run because he is pretty athletic, but I don't see dynamic running ability from him at all. Like, I'm not saying he's a bad runner. He is a good athlete. He's certainly nowhere near Josh Rosen. Like, he might even be a better runner than Sam Darnold, which isn't saying much, but this is not anywhere close to Lamar Jackson, Kyler, anywhere close to those dudes. Buddy, a friend of the show who I believe also writes for Jets X Factor, Sam, was saying that, he thinks that he has a problem. He doesn't really cycle through reads very well, or at least that's what his 2019 tape showed. And I saw some of that too, but I think the dude does have a really good touch on his deep ball, and he does have a cannon too. So again, I haven't watched a lot of him, but at this point, based on what I have seen and what other people are saying, I'd sure as hell be willing to take him if we had picked 2 over sticking with Darnold.
Yeah, let's just hope they get Lawrence. I really don't want to win a stupid game, and I'd rather just go 0-16, let the Jets owners be completely embarrassed, because I think that's what it is they deserve to be. I want their ticket sales to go down. I want their merchandising sales to go down. I want the Johnsons to be embarrassed, honestly, just so they don't make the wrong decision. You can see the Jets winning one game, they oh, look, that's the potential we have, that one game, because they're really that dumb. So I am hoping for that.
But you asked me another question, but you didn't let me answer it though yet. Crowder, you asked me about Crowder.
Yeah, no, I said we bounce back to it, so I was going to bounce back to it, but okay.
All right.
No, go ahead.
Well, I love Crowder. I really, really, really love Crowder, and I agree with you that Barrios drops a lot of balls too.
No, he's just as good as Crowder.
Stop it.
That's what I've heard on Twitter. I don't know. Some big wig said he's
because he's a slot receiver that came from a Patriots. People are automatically assuming he's good because they got Edelman and then they had the Welker before that.
He's been disappointing, man. Like Barrios, he had like a couple plays like against the Colts and the Niners where he made like nice adjustments to the ball. I'll give him that, but overall, like there was the one game I forget it was like 2 games ago where he dove for the ball and went right through his arms. This game he had a big drop. Like he's okay.
And he had big drops last year too. Bengals game, he had at least one really crucial drop on a 3rd down, and he might have even had another one in that game too. I mean, seriously talking about, and he's not super shifty. He's not super shifty. Like you said, his best attribute is kind of like when the play breaks down, let me find open grass, which, you're not going to be a very productive receiver overall when that's your entire game. And you're not playing with Russell Wilson either. But yeah, Crowder, him and Barrios, no comparison at all. So I'd love to have Crowder here for Lawrence or whoever, or Fields, because I believe that is instrumental in helping them develop. Yes. And you don't want to get yourself in a situation where you gave him shitty weapons like this before too. But again, though, the Jets have so many picks and they're going to have a lot of money in free agency that I'm not saying you'll be able to replace Crowder with just as good as a slot receiver. But you can, and if I were Joe Douglas, I would invest so much of the free agency money on offense, whatever it's going to take to help the future quarterback out. And you're not anticipating on making the playoffs next year anyway. So who cares about your defense for next year, right? Let your defense suck, but help the kid out on offense. And then you can maybe focus on defense the next year in the draft or whatever. So, and would I be okay?
Definitely a priority.
Would I be okay with trading Crowder? I would, because again, my top priority is the tank. And if you trade away your only really positive offensive piece this year, well, skill position offensive piece, that's going to help you lose games.
Yeah, it's obviously, if I can go into the future and I can see that Crowder wins us that one game to make us go to the number 2 pick, then yeah, trade him. But obviously, like you said, there's a certain point where, yeah, you want to get assets for the future. You want to ensure the tank is the biggest thing right now. But at the same time, like you said, Lawrence, Fields, whoever it may be, you need weapons. Like, you don't want to go into next year with Mims and, let's say, whoever else, another rookie or two. Like, you want some guy, a reliable slot receiver, top 10 slot receiver in the league. You can argue top 5 even. A guy who's going to be there when you need him, good route runner. And he's not a guy, he's 27, 28 years old. He's not a guy who necessarily wins with his physicality. He's a really good route runner, which obviously has some things to do with physicality and getting your hips over your brakes and things like that. But I want a guy in Crowder going into the future. Other than that, the one.
And he's going to be good for a couple more years too, because
he's 27, 28. He'll be fine.
Yeah. At that position, even when you lose some of your physical attributes, you could still play well into your 30s.
Yeah, for sure. The one thing I did not mention, because I have so many freaking windows open trying to figure so many things out. The next YouTube live, we're going to do one every single, obviously, first Monday of every month, 6 p.m. But the bye week, that Sunday, the 15th, for the people who are listening, we got about 91 people in here and about 10 people on the Periscope on Twitter. So hello to the people on Twitter who are watching. Drop your questions if you want to. I do see that. I have like 4 windows open on my computer and then another window open on another computer and another on my phone right now to try to do all this. But
God bless you.
That Sunday, the 15th, it's going to be me and Marcus Coleman, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So Marcus Coleman, myself, drop questions. Obviously, ask him anything you want. Favorite player of your career, worst player of your career. How was freaking this coach? He'll answer it. If he doesn't answer it, then it is what it is. But Marcus usually answers stuff. So, but okay, sorry, something happened. But other than that, for the trade deadline, yeah, Crowder, no. May, I'm okay with, but it depends on what they want long-term. Q, absolutely not. Other guys I can think of off the top of my head, just, I guess, comment quickly if you want to. McDougald, fine, go ahead. Perryman.
Nobody's going to want him.
Perryman, sure. Yeah, but listen, if you can get Wills for a 6th round pick and a 7th, you could trade McDougald for a 5th or 6th. Perryman, fine. Is there any old lineman you would trade? If somebody offered the Jets for Greg Van Roten or Lewis, would you think of doing it?
Would I trade?
Obviously, if a team has injuries,
I would definitely trade one of those players. I'm pro tank. I am deathly afraid of the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm so scared that we might win. We might win one game and they might beat us with the strength of schedule tiebreaker, and that is scaring the hell out of me. So, yeah, making the offensive line worse. Lewis has, in comparison to last year, I think Lewis has taken a step up as far as I'm concerned. And Van Roten, I mean, who did the Jets have at right guard last year? Lewis played right guard for definitely part of the season, right? Am I right about that?
Yeah, it was a combination of Winters and and Harrison and a bunch of backup guys when he was inevitably injured, because that's what he does.
And Van Roten, as far as I'm concerned, has been better than all of them too. So
yeah, Van Roten in the last couple of games has let up like no pressures. Like, he's been really good the last couple of games.
And this dude, Andrews, sucks. He is bad.
He is bad. I am praying.
He's very bad.
Absolutely praying that Clark comes in and plays, because a lot of people look at the Clemson game. Clemson game is great, but the other games were really good as well from Clark. So I'm really hoping that you have 8 games left. He comes in, proves he can be one of the guards, and then listen, you go into next year with your most likely, hopefully, that McGovern bounces back, but you have your center, you have your 2 tackles, you have a guard, and then sign Tooney. And then listen, then you address the big needs in draft and free agency, whether it be a corner falling to end of round 1 or outside linebacker or even a receiver or whatever it may be. And then in those 3rd, 4th rounds, that's when you address some of the depth at tackle and center, let those guys develop. Fant leaves in a year or 2, and then you have your new tackle. Like, I'm hoping that's what they do. In terms of Clark coming in, I also want to see Zuniga But yeah, I'm fine with McDougald, Perryman, Lewis, Gore. If anybody's thinking of a 7th-round pick for Gore, sure, take him. Herndon, who is a massive disappointment this year.
Oh my God.
I'm gonna take some credit for that. Not in terms of me saying he's had a disappointing year, but I was never impressed. Griffin hasn't showed up. Henry Anderson, Jenkins. Credit to Joe Douglas for not giving Jenkins. Listen, I don't know if I said it on the last podcast we did, but if Joe Douglas gave Jordan Jenkins and rewind to free agency, if he gave him a 4-year deal, $24 million, $18 million guaranteed, everyone like, great, Jordan Jenkins, $6 million a year.
Yeah.
Fast forward, we all be like, what the hell? And Desir, trade him. Like, so what are your thoughts on some of those guys? And we'll get into the YouTube questions. There's plenty of YouTube questions.
I mean, I would be willing to trade absolutely any of those guys. If you can get any picks for any of those guys, so by all means,
telling me Quinton Williams and Becton are the only guys off the board right now.
Pretty much. And like I said, I would be, for the right price, I would be willing to deal Quinton Williams for the right price.
Yeah, they're not going to get it. I don't know what.
Yeah, I don't think they get
tackles have been playing as good as he has. Like, it really, both one in the league. He's one of the highest run stuff rates in the league, and he's a really good pass rusher. He is a really good pass rusher. I don't care what the stats say. Again, we've talked about all the reasoning why. If you have to go back and watch the videos, fine. I break down every game, but lack of talent at edge rusher, lack of talent at corner. And secondary in general, Greg Williams. That's the biggest.
And by the way, stop citing stats ad nauseum, because you're not a stat guy. But for some reason,
hey Kyle, do you want me?
For some reason, this evening you've been relying on stats. It's just not like you.
Hold on. Do you want me to pull up a bunch of Williams plays? Is that what you want me to do?
No.
That's another freaking window I got to open, Kyle.
I mean, that's more your shtick. So that would make more sense. No, but I agree with you. Quinton has been jumping off the tape, and he impressed me yesterday. And one of the things I tweeted out, which some people seem to like, was that he's very good at recognizing screens, and that signifies this is a smart player with instincts, and you can't necessarily coach that in players, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, that was a screenplay where he made a tackle, but I think it was a Cardinals game where a couple times he's sniffing out the screen like that, and you're allowed to hit the back before he gets the ball. It's not considered pass interference or whatever, and he's blowing up the play before it even has a chance. A couple of times in that game. So I've been impressed with him overall. Now I do have my criticisms of him as well, which I can get into, but I want to see. Well, at the same, so Joe, I'd like to see Clark play, but again, I'm pro tank, so I don't want them to catch.
Play. I want to see the young guys play.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll do what they do with Mims. Like, they'll use him in the first half, and then Adam Gase will come out and say that they didn't have any plays for him in the second half, or they didn't have enough plays in the second half, and then maybe Clark will play well in the first half, and then they'll bench him for the second half because they didn't have enough plays for Clark.
All I gotta say is, Jets fans who hate Adam Gase so much, if he gets us the number 1 overall pick and we get Lawrence, which Adam Schefter tweeted out yesterday, multiple executives are telling him, and Schefter is very, very, very rarely wrong, that Lawrence is coming out despite his comments. If Gase gets us that number 1 pick, I'll forever love that guy.
So really, it's the owners, because the owners that fired Bowles, but not McCagden. Then McCagden got overtaken by Gase, who then had a part to do with Douglas. So thank you, Chris Johnson.
Yes, thank you, Chris Johnson.
There you go. And never mind. I'm not even going to say that. I'm not even going to say thank you to the president, because he's the one who in turn brought Woody Johnson over. So we can go a full length back. We can keep going back and back and back.
The butterfly effect, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, can I just say one thing about Josh Andrews? I wrote something down about him, man. Yeah, his not only is he not athletic, but his footwork is so shitty. In the what was it? The Dolphins game, man, when he was in, he's basically jumping off the ground out of his stance, keeping his feet parallel. I mean, I noticed that a couple times with him. He's really bad.
I want to go to, not in any type of form, just because there's so many, there's a lot of comments in the YouTube, but I do want to go to these before we lose some of them. Somebody saying that Cashman's medical history a mile long before the draft. He had a bunch of shoulder things. Fans on a 1-year deal, basically. Yes. Let's see what else. Has somebody asked Will Gallego, whatever, has Gase made any player better? I don't think. Well, I think there's a couple guys in my Miami that he made better. I think I would say personally that maybe not made better, but more recognizable is Crowder. overall in terms of how much production he gets. But like I know what you guys are saying, like he doesn't make a lot of guys better, which I'd agree with to a larger extent. But like you said, Jay Ajayi, Kenny Stills, Crowder.
You could, I mean, listen, people want to shit on Tannehill or Gase destroyed Tannehill. Tannehill had his definite best season with Adam Gase his first year. And I don't know that you can really blame Adam Gase for the last 2 years with Tannehill, because year 2, Tannehill didn't play at all with Gase. Tannehill tore his ACL in the preseason. The very next year, Tannehill had a huge shoulder injury. The dude's got a good arm. He couldn't even push the ball downfield. And then eventually they just stopped playing him because his shoulder injury was so bad. And then he had to get surgery and he had to get healthy the next year. And then he finally got healthy and then he became good with the Titans. So can you really blame Adam Gase for Tannehill? I don't think you can.
Yeah, somebody asked in here, I don't know exactly where it was, but they were asking if we would sign Allen Robinson next year into free agency.
Oh yeah. Free agency next year? Yes.
I forgot who asked that. Yeah, listen, Robinson, Juju, anybody who's going to help your young quarterback and might be here for another couple of years, I would definitely look to sign at receiver. There's less things you have to address in the draft. Obviously, you want to address, if a stud wide receiver falls, you have to end around 1, take them. But the less holes you go into the draft, the better. So I would definitely say that Vincent Smith is not getting a lot of play, but he is okay. I don't necessarily agree with that. Because
he had an end around touchdown last year.
On what grounds you say he's okay? I don't. I think a lot of these guys.
And he had that long screenplay against the Dolphins where we won 19-18.
Is that why Berrios was overhyped too? Because of that long screen or the slant versus.
No, with Berrios, it's the looks, and because Drew from Jersey was talking about his quads and things like that, the pictures of his muscles.
Yeah, no, I think.
And then he dresses nice.
A lot of people kind of get upset, not obsessed, but like one guy makes one catch because Jets fans celebrate first downs because that's how bad the offense, is.
It goes on the highlight reel.
A lot of these people like the Jeff Smiths, Vincent Smith, Berrios, listen, I think some of those guys could be decent 5 or 6s in the future, but they're not. They're Jags. Let's be honest. They're easily replaceable. Where if you picked up, the 4th guy from the Tennessee Titans roster right now as a wide receiver, you guys would all be really impressed with him too. So I think people have to realize that a lot of these guys are Jags, to be completely honest. So let's see what other, I don't know if we have anything. Lawrence back to school. That's a topic I wrote down. What do you think about that? I know you comment on it a little bit, but do you think he would go back to school? I think, to be short, a lot of people are kind of overestimating how bad the Jets are, both in the last 20 years. The Jets, in terms of their record, have actually been decent in the last 20 years. The last 10 years has been really bad, but I don't think any quarterback who's going to be taken number 1 overall is just going to go back to school. If anything, might he spurn the Jets and ask for a trade? Could that happen? 1% chance, but I really doubt it. Would you rather go to the Jets?
With anybody since 2004.
Would you rather go to the Jets or the Jaguars, or the Jets or who else is up there? The Giants. It's not like those teams are good either. And I think if Lawrence was smart, his agent was smart, and for whatever reason he did have some doubts about the Jets, it's not like Joe Douglas. And maybe if Gase stayed, I can understand that. I really doubt that Gase is staying, but I'm sure that his agent would talk to people around the league. And Joe Douglas is a highly respected guy with a lot of cap space, a lot of draft picks coming up in the future. So I don't think you'd ever just say, no, I don't want to play in the biggest market, which doesn't have as much of an effect anyway. LeBron James is one of the biggest stars in the world, or if not the biggest, and started off in Cleveland. So it's not like you have to be a big star. Baker Mayfield has all these commercials in Cleveland. So it's a little bit overrated now with social media and things like that and how easily information can get around. But overall, I don't think that he's looking at the Jets and would just say, no, I'm not going to the Jets. They're that bad. Unless he kept Gase. And if they kept Gase, I could maybe raise it from 1% chance to 2% chance, but I really, really doubt that he would not come out. I think that's really, really stupid.
I think if they kept Gase, there'd be a decent chance, but they're not keeping Gase. There's no way. How could you keep him after?
No,
I mean, because you hired him after multiple losing seasons in Miami.
Yeah.
Right. So you already knew that, okay, maybe we can find lightning in a bottle, but this guy's already coming off an track record, and he's already had many years experience as a head coach, and it's just getting worse and worse and worse. So there's no way you're going to keep him after going 0-16 or 1-15. It's just not happening.
Does that scare you at all with the Johnsons about keeping him? Realistically from their view, then why isn't he fired yet? Do you really think it's for the tank that Joe Douglas came to him and said, listen, let's just embrace the tank? Or is it that they don't want to be playing Bowles, Gase, and whoever else? Like, is that the reason why?
I think it's just the way the Johnsons do things. When's the last time they fired a coach in season?
Yeah, and honestly, this is never. That's the answer. They have the most perfect scenario right now. Where can you imagine if there was fans at the games, the 4 fans who would be there right now? Like, I would go to Jets games to boo them. Like, that's it. Like that. Yeah, that's the only reason I would be there. So, their merchandise has to be down there. Like, I don't see a lot of people, buying Jets gear, and like their ratings on their podcast, their website, everything has to be down, as is every podcast. Let's say right now you're getting 1,000 listeners, where if they were actually good, you'd be getting 4,000. Like, you could see it right after week 1, listeners just went whoop right down the drain. It just happens. And like you said, I knew it was over week 1, like 5 minutes into the first quarter. I was like, yep, this ain't it. That first play kickoff, they got the block in the back or whatever. I was like, no, this I know how this is going to go. And then they get, the Niners game. Like, okay, they have a chance. Maybe just a bad game. And then the season was gone from there.
Gase coached like such a bitch in that game.
What, the Niners game?
Yes.
He taps out as soon as he's down like 10 points. He's done.
And he never tested them down. He took like one shot like late in the game. He was such a bitch in that game. Like, even after their star pass rushers went down, he was still coaching like a bitch.
So, are you worried about the Johnsons at all? Like,
very slightly, just because they're the Johnsons, but not really. And will Lawrence spurn the Jets? I'm not really too worried about that either. I really think the only reason it is realistic is if they do keep Gase. But otherwise, I mean, and by the way, Khan, I don't think Khan, the owner of the Jaguars, has a very good relationship in the NFL. I mean, ever since he bought the Jaguars, I mean, granted, they did have an AFC championship berth, but I mean, they've been a dumpster fire for the overwhelming majority of his ownership there. And they've hired bad GMs. They've hired, lackluster coaches, so to speak. So they have a shitty record of, well, I mean, I guess Bortles actually did, have some talent around him. But he was just Blake Bortles. Game. Yeah, he was just Blake Bortles. So, but yeah, I mean, I think Lawrence would look at it just like, all right. And by the way, he's going to have so many people in his ear. He's going to have people who've been watching Jets film if they have the number 1 overall pick. So he's going to have people knowing, okay, this kid Becton, who's going to be protecting your blind side for years to come, he can play. You have all these other draft picks, Joe Douglas, 3 Super Bowls, right? And hopefully they'll hire, a smart offensive-minded head coach. Although I'm not married to having to be an offensive-minded coach, but hopefully they'll just hire a smart coach, and that'll be enough for him.
Yeah. Before we bounce back into the topics that I have down and some of the YouTube comments, which somebody said 1975 was the last time the Jets fired somebody in season. That's
different ownership. Different ownership.
Yeah, that was whoever that was. I was negative 18 years old in 1975. So, but we have a caller.
You were born in 90 what?
What's your guess, Kyle? How old am I? Do you know?
I think you're.
I'm not letting you get away.
You're like, I think you're 28.
27.
That was the next guess.
Yeah, 93. So we have, and I like reading the auto screen because I think it's funny how it picks up. Like, sometimes I'll get a little bit, like, I know he wants to talk about Sam Darnold, but it says Matt Troja from White Plains. Actually says Matt Rhoda. Talk about Sam Darnold's natural progression and how Gay Henderson by giving it too many books. So we'll see what he wants to talk about, unless he doesn't want us to talk about Gay Henderson by giving it too many books. Let's see if this goes. Matt, can you hear us?
Hey, Matt. Maybe he went to go use the bathroom.
I don't know why it's not working. Hold on.
Hey, Robbie just sent us a message. I don't know if you saw that.
No, okay. Yeah, we're having some difficulties with that. Hold on a second. All right, Matt, wait in there. Once I'll try to figure that whole process out again. Maybe that's gonna be difficult. Okay. Let's bounce back because that's going to be hard to do.
Sorry, Matt.
Yeah, sorry, Matt. The calls might have a little bit of issues tonight, unless I could figure out how to do that while I'm doing this and look at all that stuff to do that. With talking about Lawrence Darnold the last couple of games since we've talked, what have been your feelings about Sam Darnold?
he just continues to suck. I've been completely done with him for a while now, but man, he blows. And I know that you watch the coaches film and people are not getting open that often. The offense is not that imaginative, but yeah, he's bad, man. He's really bad. And even one of the things that you really kind of liked about him in college, and you saw a little bit of it in the Dallas game last year, is the dude always looked comfortable sliding in the pocket and kind of making things happen in the pocket. And especially in his college tape, he wasn't scared with throwing with pressure in his face. But man, I was watching this Bills game, and the Bills brought a lot of pressure on him in the second half of that game. And sometimes it would come from all sides. Sometimes it would come from one side. And one time it came heavy to the left side. They brought, a couple blitzers from the left side. And Darnold's got a completely clean pocket on the right side. And all he needs to do to buy a little bit more time is just step up and to the right. Not stepping at all. And he's withering under pressure. It was bad. It was really bad. So you tweeted out. I don't know when you tweeted this out exactly. It might have been after his almost near pick on a slant route. Was it after that play where you said he's bad at reading leverage?
Yeah.
I said that last time we were on here, and buddy of the show, Charmin, said something about how he didn't maybe quite see it a month ago, but now he's starting to see it more, and how I mentioned it a month ago. And yeah, he's really bad at that, and it's not getting any better at all. Darnold has real eye perception problems as far as I'm concerned. I might have even written some notes about that in here, but I don't know. Why don't you comment before I say more about Mr. Sam Richard Darnold?
No, he's been bad. He's had a flash or two where he's made a nice play, but then he gets out. That one play gets outweighed by 10 other plays that are really bad. I've been breaking it down plenty where, again, it's the stuff we've been talking about, not going through reads, the happy feet. His mechanics have become worse where, again, at USC, he would make 9 out of 10 throws with bad mechanics. Now it seems like he's making 5 out of 10 throws with the bad mechanics. That they have gotten even worse. The seeing ghostings has become even more true, locking onto the one side of the field, pre-snap reads. You saw it not this game, but the game previous where just based on pre-snap leverage, he should have went. And again, I don't know what Gase is giving him in terms of reading his progressions, in terms of can he switch his reads from going left to right to left. I don't know if he has the freedom to do that because he didn't even have the freedom to call a QB sneak or whatever it was on that fourth down. So based on leverage, can he change his progressions and how they're supposed to work from going one side of the field to the other? I'm not too sure, but regardless of what he's able to do in terms of changing his progression and changing his reads, he should have read the right side really quickly. And this is the time where he missed Mims, where nothing was open. The linebacker dropped back into coverage. Once that linebacker dropped back into coverage, he got over the flat route from Herndon, who was in the backfield. And then there was 2 guys over top of, I believe it was Griffin on a corner outside. At that point, okay, 3 guys versus 2. They're completely covered. Let me go to the left side. The left side, he had Mims sitting in the flat, was wide open for a would-be catch and running for a touchdown for 10-yard run, whatever it was. So little stuff like that he's not seeing, and what he needs to see year 3, regardless of what was around him. We've talked about, okay, yeah, he wasn't given a great offensive line. He's given bad coaching. He wasn't given receivers, but regardless of all of that, he's not seeing guys open. He's not going through reads. There's a lot of problem that he has by himself, and people like to look at it where it's so white or black, where I don't agree with that. There's a big gray area where it's a combination of all the things we've been talking about with the talent around him, that, both his rookie year, second year, third year, the bad coaching, but then there's also problems that he's showing that he shouldn't be showing in year 3. And that's why you have to move on from him. Listen, whether it be Lawrence or Fields, especially the way that Fields is rising, especially these last couple of weeks, everybody's saying that in another year, he might be the number 1 guy without Lawrence. Let's just talk about Lawrence. It's the easier thing to do. You cannot skip on Lawrence for Darnold, who's clearly damaged goods right now. It's not very good.
Yeah, and I don't know why some Jets fans still want to hang on to Darnold, other than the fact that the kid didn't get a fair shake. I get that, but let's taking the Mims thing for example. Maybe Sam is overly compensating on locking on one side of the field because the vast majority of his NFL career, he hasn't had a lot of time. It's difficult to make full field reads. You need time in pass protection to be able to make a full field read. So maybe he's kind of scarred and doesn't think that he'll ever have the time to do that. So maybe that's playing a part into it. But I mean, at the end of the day, you still got to be held accountable for that because you're an NFL quarterback. You should be able to do that. And regardless of whether or not we don't know this information, we don't have this information, regardless, he can see something pre-snap and then choose to change his reads, what side of the concept he's going to open up to. Yeah, we don't know that, sure. But given on that Mims play against the Bills, even if he opens up to the right side of the concept and it's not there, any quarterback, any system, any play, you have the ability to eventually go to the backside of the concept. And he never did until it was way, way, way too late. And then the defender already crashed down. And going back to the leverage idea, his interception that he had in the Bills game, it's another one of these high-low concepts. And it's not the traditional smash where it's the hitch in the corner. I forget what the exact concept is, but it's a high-low. You're trying to isolate the defender, one in the flat. And he shouldn't make this type of throw because he's got bad eyes, and the defender is already starting to peel off. And you got to recognize that this is a dangerous throw, and he had to, or he should have seen it, but he still throws it. The defender peels off the flat and easily picks it off. It's just like, this is a mind-boggling, head-scratching play. And it goes back to something I've been saying for, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years now, that Darnold's, even back to his college tape, like Darnold had a lot of positive things in college that he's not doing in the NFL. Something he's always been bad at, as far as I'm concerned, is those high-low smash type of concepts. Bad at reading them.
Yeah, we had a question from Twitter a while ago that I'm just seeing now. Would you trade Darnold for a second rounder if the last day offer comes in from a guy on Twitter? What are your thoughts on that?
On the surface of it, I like the fact that we could get Darnold for a second rounder, and I guess it really kind of depends on what team is offering that second rounder to you. Part of me is hesitant about that because I wonder if you could get more at the end of the season for him. And another reason I'm a little hesitant about it too is because I'm not so sure that actually having Darnold is better or worse for the tank. I'm not saying, listen, now, obviously I said last year that Darnold was way better than some of his replacements. And, especially when you compare him to Luke Falk, there's no question about that. But as of right now, how they're playing, I'm not so sure that Darnold is a huge upgrade in this system as compared to Joe Flacco, because Darnold will, as far as I'm concerned, turn the ball over more than Flacco.
Yeah,
turnovers go a long way in deciding games. So, like I said, my main thing is the tank. So, if you're playing Joe Flacco the rest of the season, would he be more able to win you a game? I'm not sure. So if you think it's going to be an early second rounder, I think I would do it.
Yeah,
for sure.
I don't think I could do it just because of the fact that, let's say that the low chance that they do win, 2 games. Let's say they even win 1, right? And they get unlucky with the fact that the Texans don't win 1 and the Giants don't win 1, which is a very low possibility, but it still is a possibility. They would fall to 4. And let's say you don't like Lance and then Fields and Lawrence go 1-2, and now you're sitting there with no quarterback. So I would rather have Darnold than not I'd rather have Darnold than whatever I'm trying to say. You get what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to do like a million things right now.
I get what you're saying. You don't want to be in a place where you can't get Fields or Lawrence.
I'm trying to get the callers back, but I don't know what's going on here. So. But continue.
Well, you could direct them to ask questions, callers. If you can't get you through, you can.
I'm gonna figure it out.
I'm
gonna figure it out. Keep.
I think I get what you're saying.
I want to be in a position where the Jets they win a game and then you're sitting there with 2 empty hands because Lawrence and Fields went 1-2. You're sitting at 3, and now it's okay. Well, I'm going to draft Penei Sewell or trade down, and you don't have a quarterback because you traded Darnold. So yeah,
and I would love to have Sewell, but
in an ideal world, yeah. Do you want to trade Darnold to get, let's say, a second round pick, or maybe at the end of the season you get a 4th or a 3rd or whatever it might be? Yeah, but I just don't think it's worth the risk, to be completely honest.
I definitely hear that. Although. And I don't know, could a new coach come in here and turn around Darnold? Maybe. There is some raw talent there, but I'm not too optimistic about it. And some people might be wondering if we watched any of Trey Lance. I don't know about you, but the only play I saw of Trey Lance is when in that game that he had this year, the one game. I don't understand why he would only play one game. I don't get why they only played one game. I know it's something to do with COVID or whatever, but why even play that one game? And I don't get it. I'm just saying. But the only play I saw is that long run that he had on would seem to be some type of option play. So I can't really comment about him at all. Although Sam supposedly likes him.
Yeah, but you know the way that both of us do that, where we're not going to comment on guys we've seen highlight tapes of, or even one game or two games of. I want to give a full opinion on a guy, so we'll wait for that stuff. We have plenty of time to dive into some of their tape. But last couple of topics. Gase play calling. What do you think about that in terms of him giving up the play calling to Loggins? It's just kind of funny in terms of a guy who is coaching football to where it's going, brought in here to help Sam Darnold, who's failed Darnold and knows so much about offense, is giving up his play calling to a complete pawn. So what have you thought about that? If anything, if the Johnsons are completely clueless about where the Jets are going, you see your offensive guru giving up play calling and now not even coaching the offense. And the really troubling thing too is when he comes out after games and says, "Oh, I have to watch the tape. I'm not really sure what happened." High school coaches make adjustments in game because of what they're seeing on the field. So that's just a flat out lie to get out of questions. It has to be. It absolutely has to be.
And if it's not, it's a huge indictment about him, because if you're a coach who spends potentially hundreds of hours of watching film in a given week to prepare for a game, football so well that you can see stuff happening in live time and know what the opposing team is doing to you. So if you can't comment at all and have a general idea of what the other team is doing to you, then that just shows how shitty of a coach you are. Right? I mean, so it's he's probably, lying to an extent there.
I don't see there's any way that he's not, to be completely honest. So, Now, what do you think about and I think I've talked to you about this a couple of weeks ago. Is there any new head coaching candidates who have either fizzled out a little bit in your mind, who have heated up over the last couple of weeks? I know some guys like, Arthur Smith might have been a really hot head coaching candidate, but maybe once they lose to the Bengals, he goes a little bit down. Or I know Dable from the Bills was a really hot name, but the Bills have been struggling a little bit more the last couple of weeks. So he might have cooled out for a couple of guys. So is there anybody who's heated up a little bit in your mind?
And even Joe Brady's kind of fizzled out a little bit too, because they didn't put up much points against the vaunted Falcons defense on Thursday night last week. So although I am kind of intrigued by Joe Brady. Has anyone really risen up to me? I can't say that anyone really has yet, to be honest. I keep saying that, I keep seeing people saying that Bieniemy's out of reach. Jets fans need to get realistic and realize that Bieniemy's not coming to the Jets. I mean, that's music to my ears as far as I'm concerned. I know the Andy Reid coaching tree is good. So, but how much of that offense is really Bieniemy? So much of it is Reid. So
major issues with coaches who are coordinators who are under their coaches like specialty, like the Patricias to the Bill Belichick's or whoever it may be. And I know that's not the best example because people are gonna go, oh well, Flores is now in Miami. That's true, but overall, I would rather have obviously a defensive guy under an offensive guy because again, like you said, Bieniemy might.
And Flores was calling plays in New England. He called plays for a Super Bowl winning team.
Yeah, so it's concerning. It is concerning in terms of how much he's actually doing. So everybody acts like he's the surefire number one guy for the Jets, but I don't see that, to be completely honest, with what's his name, with Bieniemy. So,
and plus another thing about Flores too is you got to understand Flores started off in the personnel department, so he's also got experience doing that end of the thing. And when you're talking about a head coach, you're not just talking about a guy who's calling plays or focusing on one side of the ball, a la Adam Gase. You're talking about a guy that can completely be in control of football operations. So, I mean, at first when Miami hired Flores, I was like, but then as I got to know more about him and kind of see what they're doing, that dude's got a game plan, and he's really modeling Miami to be like the New England defenses were the past couple of years. You know, they were doing a lot of zero blitz, and they got a lot of, strong man cover corners, which New England has run so much man coverage over recent years, blitz heavy. So, Flores has got a game plan and a vision down in Miami, and right now it seems to be working pretty well. And, Bieniemy, I heard him say yesterday, and I didn't know this until I heard the broadcast yesterday, but supposedly he's the one who talks in Patrick Mahomes' headset. So I don't know exactly what he's saying to them if he's not calling the plays. Do you know, Joe?
No,
what Bieniemy would be saying? I have no idea. So
yeah. All right, I think I'm going to give up on the call-in thing, so I'm going to apologize for that next time we do it. Hopefully call-in, but technical difficulties happen unless we figure it out while I'm doing this. But at this point, I'm not gonna keep trying. But PJ Fleck is the coach for the job. I've seen some of that rise up a little bit. The guys I like Dable a little bit. I like Monken. I know a lot of people have been talking about Matt Campbell. I think like you that Bieniemy is a little bit overrated. I think any like Super Bowl winning coordinator, whether it be offensive defense, is going to be a little bit overrated. So that's a little bit of a concern from mine. But Monken's a guy I really like. Joe Brady's a guy again who might have fizzled out a little bit, but I am really interested to watch the coaching candidates in the offseason, break down their offenses, see what kind of offenses they run, what are their specialties, what do they build concepts off of. A lot of good coaches do that, obviously, with the outside zone teams, the Rams, the Niners, building off of that outside zone, bootlegs, things like that I'm really interested to see. But we have plenty of time to break down that as well. There's a big the Giants play tonight, actually, in terms of the tank, Kyle.
Wouldn't it be great if they get the upset tonight? Wouldn't that be great?
On the Bucks? Like I said, I'm not.
Here's the thing that's pissing me off, Joe, is the Giants have been so competitive in so many games this year. They've lost a lot of nail biters this year. I mean, I know they got blown out by the 49ers, and maybe they got blown out in one other game. But other than that, their games have been close. And the Jags, we have by far, statistically speaking, and even just X's and O's speaking, just even random person watching the highlights speaking, we've been by far the worst team. Yet there are still teams that are just one win, that have one win more than us. So that's what's pissing me off, is we're definitely the worst team on paper. There's no doubt about that right now.
It's just, of course, in the Jets year where they're going to be really, really bad, there's going to be other teams who are really, really bad. Like, didn't the Bengals get 2-3 wins last year? Or what was the record last year?
They got 2. So I've been doing a little bit of tank research, man, because this is my top priority right now. The Bengals had 2 wins last year, but they started 0-10, right? And they got their first win against us. And the year before that, the team with the number 1 overall pick was the Cardinals, and they had 3 wins. So, yeah. And the team that had the second pick last year was the Redskins, who had 3 wins. So it's I haven't really seen it. When's the last time you had a year where you had 2 teams with just 1 win? I can't remember the last time.
No, but it'll be in 2020, of course, because that's just our luck.
Please, no. But can the Jaguars really lose 15 in a row, win the first game and then lose the next 15? Is that really possible?
Look at their schedule. Pull up their schedule. I don't know.
I know. I've looked at it. It's tough, and especially with Mike fucking Glennon. I tweeted your ex co-host Glenn. Remember my first time or ever speaking to Glenn was him criticizing him for being high on Mike Glennon.
I remember those arguments back in the heyday.
And
so we're gonna go through it real quick, and then we're gonna go through some of the YouTube stuff. Like I said, I've been trying to figure out the whole call-in thing, and I haven't been addressing the YouTube as much. And I appreciate the 145 people who are in here. So let's start interacting with those people. Drop some questions. We're gonna start addressing some people in there. And Matt Schroeder, I know the call-in isn't working. I apologize. Something went wrong. He said he had some good stuff for us. So either wait until next time we do it, or drop it in the chat, and then we'll address all your stuff. So I do apologize. Win-loss, Kyle. Houston versus Houston.
Yeah, that was the well, I'll say Houston with Mike Glennon. If it was home for the Jaguars and they played him decently tough last time, If they had Minshew, I might say Jaguars, but they don't have him. So I'm going to have to say Houston.
If you had to bet your life on every game, you're going to say Houston. Okay. At
I'm
Green
going to say
Bay,
Houston.
loss, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Pittsburgh, loss. Cleveland, loss.
Unless Baker Mayfield shits the bed, and he could shit the bed.
Minnesota, you never know, I guess.
And it's in Minnesota too.
Yeah, you have Tennessee, who just lost to the Bengals, who I think are a lot.
Now that is a divisional game. It is a divisional game, and it is home. But you have to understand. But I wish this game was earlier in the year, because you got to figure, like, shit. If you got a chance to draft Trevor fucking Lawrence, and you're the owner, you might pull out all the stops and just say lose the fucking game no matter what. It's week 17. Or is that week 17? Is that the last game?
What?
No, it's not. No, sorry. No, it's not.
No, they have Tennessee, then they have Baltimore, which is a loss.
They
have Chicago and Indianapolis. So the game,
I could potentially see Tennessee, especially. I mean, look, Tennessee just lost to the Bengals. Nobody really gave the Bengals that much of a chance. So that's a possibility too.
Yeah. So the thing,
but I still say the Titans though.
There's a couple games you're looking at it like Houston, Cleveland, or Minnesota. Like maybe one of those games, if Cleveland has a bad game, or Minnesota, you never know. Tennessee, I don't really think so, probably. And then you have Chicago and Indianapolis, who are good for a stinker every once in a while. So they have to.
And they did beat the Colts. They did beat the Colts week 1.
The Jets' schedule. Do they really go 0-16, or do you think they get a win? That's the biggest problem right now, because I think they do end up with one win. I don't know.
I think for the Jets to get a win, they would need to get really lucky. Like, they're going to need like kickers to be shanking kicks, or some fluky pick six or something like that. Like, you look at some of the Jets wins last year, like Oakland. Oakland was hot at the time when they came to MetLife, and the Jets got something like the Brian Poole pick six, right? Like a little bit of luck working. I know they blew them out in that game, but like the Steelers, they're going against fucking Duck Hodges, and then what's his face came in, and then when what's his face from Oklahoma State came in, he was actually, moving the ball pretty well against the Jets, but he got hurt in the game, and then Hodges had to come back in.
Yeah.
And then the Bills game, they got lucky because the Bills benched their starters. So I mean, like, and then the how bad were the Giants last year? How bad was
such a fluke.
How bad was the Redskins and the Giants were two of the worst teams in the NFL. Those wins. So the Jets got. Yeah, like you said, it was so fluky, and even in some of those games they won. Yeah, they, the Miami, right? The pass interference called late in the game,
fluky,
right? Like, you might not be getting that call a lot of times too, and if they don't get that pass interference call, they're not winning that game. So the Jets are so bad, and they're so poorly coached to get a win against the upcoming schedule. And the thing, you're worried about the Chargers. I was a little bit worried about the Chargers, but the way I'm seeing Herbert playing, and that game's on the road.
Yeah, but they just blew like a 16-point lead, a 17-point lead, and an 18-point lead. Like,
I know, but the Jets can't score though, bro. Like, the Jets get down, Gase gets into bitch mode. The Jets, if they get a lead against the Jets, they ain't coming back. And the thing about Gase is, look at his record in Miami. He was terrible on the road. So that's one thing that's kind of like, giving me a lot of hope about the Chargers game. After seeing what the Browns did against the Raiders last week, I'm a little concerned with the Browns because it is at MetLife. And Gase is a lot better at home versus away. But hopefully Myles Garrett will, I don't know. And Myles Garrett usually rushes on the left side, right? So
yeah, we don't want to beat Becton. We don't want to beat Becton.
We don't want to beat Becton, but I don't know. Maybe they'll switch him to Fant's side, and he can destroy Fant.
So a couple Twitter questions before we go back to the YouTube. What's the percentage Joe Douglas sticks with Sam Darnold and trades out of the number 1 pick? What would you put that percentage at?
Like not even 1%.
A percentage of 1%?
Yeah, like 0.1%, something.
Yeah,
like that.
It's not gonna happen. Finish number 1. Another question.
Joe Douglas would be a goddamn fool. That's a fireable offense.
I have two things. If he does not draft a quarterback, especially if he's at 1 or 2, huge question mark about Joe Douglas and his evaluation of talent. And 2, if he was to trade Quinton Williams for the 2nd round pick that everybody's talking about, I would have very, very big doubts about a guy who wants to build in the trenches. If
that's not happening. That's not happening.
T Silver 123, good or amazing pod as usual. Can't call in right now, but some fans have this conspiracy that Gase is going to the Johnsons and selling out Darnold and giving all these excuses while selling the tank in order to keep his job. That scares me a little bit. But what are your thoughts?
That's not happening. Coaches don't purposely
He
games.
He does report right to the Johnsons.
Yeah, I have no doubt that he's probably undermining Sam Darnold and making excuses for himself.
Yeah.
But I don't think that he's coming to the Johnsons saying, hey, listen, I'm going to put an absolute shit product on the field and we're going to become the laughing stock of the NFL. And I'll do that for you to get the number 1 pick, but you got to keep me next year. Like if he imagine the balls it would take to come to the owner who's paying you millions of dollars and say, hey, listen, I will lose games on purpose if you keep me. They could be like, fuck you. You know, you suck at winning games anyway, and we'll fire your ass anyway because you can't win games. I buy the fact that he's throwing Darnold under the bus and making excuses for himself, but that there's this other part of this conspiracy. And by the way, here's the thing about conspiracy theories. There's often so much truth, or not so much, but there's often grains of truth in conspiracy theories, but the conclusions that people draw from conspiracy they're sometimes way off base. So like, while there's probably some truth in that whole conspiracy theory, the ending and the whole thing of it is not true.
I'm not even trying to pronounce his name. Abdi, as his name looks like. Love the midseason review so far. Just wanted to quickly amend something. Bieniemy did call plays with Reed during the Chiefs playoff run, particularly the Texans game. So the thing about that is, and I have to look into a couple of these things. What was the score in the Texans game when he started calling the plays? Did he call the plays from the beginning of the game? Because that would be a massive question mark. And 3, show me that in not in writing, but I want to see that out of one of the coach's mouth. I want hearsay. I want one of those guys saying that he was calling those plays, not, oh, well, this random guy from Twitter with 125 followers told me that he was playing, choosing the plays. And it's different if he was to choose the plays in the first quarter with 15 minutes left, or in the fourth quarter when they were up by a touchdown or two, whatever it was. No, didn't they come back in that game big time?
They had like 7-8 straight touchdown drives. So eventually,
maybe what Bieniemy was calling plays, and he retook.
But it was a blowout already. Yeah, it was a blowout already.
Yeah, no, but that was the game where they came back like 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, it was like 24-0 Texans at the beginning of the game, and then it was Chiefs touchdown, Chiefs touchdown, Chiefs touchdown, Chiefs touchdown over and over and over again. Tried to give it to
him, and then he just took it back once they scored 0 points. I honestly, I'm not trying to disregard the question, but I want to see exactly when, what, where, why, how in terms of him calling the playoff game. A game that did not really start well. And again, it's easy, and I will give him credit, just for being a good OC, being a good head coach, whatever, but his job's a lot easier with the Chiefs than it would be with the Jets. Let's be completely honest. We have a good offensive line. You have really good running back. You obviously have Hardman, you have Robinson, you have Hill, you have Kelsey, you have Patrick Mahomes, who's the most talented quarterback in the last 20 years in terms of like his actual talent, so it makes it a little bit easier. Somebody has to be trolling us, I think, in the YouTube, saying last time I went to a Jets game was when Chad Pennington, Laveranues Coles, and Santonio Holmes played. They never played together.
He might mean Santana Moss.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Santana Moss. Can the Johnsons be forced to sell the team? I wish the Johnsons would. I think it has to be like a vote of like 31 to 0 for the Johnsons to be forced to sell the team. I think it's something like that in terms of them being forced to tell the team.
Or like what reason? Okay, but what would be the reason why they would be forced to sell the team? Because that could set a dangerous precedent. Like forced to sell the team for what reason?
Yeah, no, I don't know. It's not like they have bad relationships with other guys. Just throwing this out there, would you trade Quinton for a first and third? They have not been listening. I said no to that.
Like I said, I flirt with that idea, and I would say it depends on where this first is going to be. Like if I have the New York Giants, and the New York Giants have already traded for one of our defensive linemen, who offer me a first round and a third round pick, I'd do it because I'm pretty sure the Giants are going to finish with a top 10 pick, maybe even closer to a top 5 pick.
So if you're talking in like the 7-8 range, you take that first round pick?
Yes.
I think at that point you probably
I
have
would.
to just because
I
of the
would
rookie
because
contract. But
here's the thing. We're talking about developing the young player, right? You might be able to get what's his face? The LSU receiver with that pick. So then you're talking you could maybe even you could get potentially 2 receivers in the first round for Lawrence, or maybe a receiver and
Or
a first
Sewell.
round offensive lineman.
Imagine if it was like the 4th pick and you
Wow.
get freaking Sewell and Lawrence, then you have Becton, Becton and
Oh my
Sewell.
God, man. You would have some absolute maulers too, because I don't want to act like I've watched a lot of Sewell, man,
I
but
don't think they're
he's
going
a
to get that
monster.
high. They're not going to get that high of a pick for Quinton though. So we're kind of talking in a.
Yeah, they're not, but I would do that. I don't know if you wouldn't, but I would.
Yeah. Okay. Other than that, we're gonna go back to some of the other topics. We have some other things in there. Overall, last couple of games, what has been some of the good from the offense and the good from the defense that you've seen? It might be a short list.
Good from the offense is not very much.
The only thing I can really say is Greg Van Roten, Mims, who I don't know why he's not getting targeted, but he he is. Fant Becton. You know, I would say those 3 offensive linemen, and then obviously like I said with Mims and even Crowder when he plays. I think Crowder has been a little bit overhyped by Jets fans. Like when he got the 100+ yard game for the Broncos, which by the way, people with that Becton play you're going to see versus the Chiefs 1,000 times. That was all Alex Lewis who helped on that combo block. It was very little to do with Becton, but you see guys like Baldy, oh my God, you know, he hit him so hard, but then he was standing straight up. Lewis comes in on the combo, rocks him, and then Becton has him while he's in the air already from Lewis. And people are going crazy about that, but Becton's been playing great. Mims, I'm super. Listen, Mims not having a training camp, preseason, all that stuff, and coming in the last couple of games. I know he's only had like 40 yards both games, both coming in the first halves. But Mims, his first 2 games, you have to be super encouraged.
Yeah, and I will admit that for a lot of my when I watch Jets coach film, I like to focus on like concepts that they're running and kind of like big picture types of things more. And then I like to focus on trench play a lot. But for watching like specific receiver and corner technique, I like to rely on you for a lot more. You have a much better eye for that stuff than me. So what did
you say about the first part, the offensive line you said?
What I'm saying is that when I watch, I like to focus on like overall scheme and like what the concept is and things like that. Yeah. And then I also do like to focus on trench play a lot more. I mean, I played in the trenches when I was in high school and in college. But you understand receiver and corner technique a lot more than me. So when I watch it, and sometimes to get a good idea of that, you got to watch the broadcast angle. So sometimes it's a pain in the ass to switch between those.
It is a pain.
So I just like to rely on you for that. So
you're lazy. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Lazy, time saving, and then also deferring to you, who knows more. Whatever. But so I'm curious to see some of your specific breakdowns on lots of Mims plays and stuff. But just from the raw stuff that I've seen already, you're seeing a lot of the things about Mims that you liked on his college tape. I mean, when's the last time we saw a receiver that went out, extended their arms fully, and caught balls with their hands like that?
Braylon Edwards. And we'll know.
But maybe, but Braylon Edwards had bad hands. And Brandon Marshall even had bad hands too. Like Brandon Marshall would make an amazing catch with his hands, and he certainly could go up like the Prince of Mukamara.
And then one would doink off his chest into the turf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, as far as catching and catch radius, could Mims ever get to the physicality level of Brandon Marshall? I don't know. But just catch radius and hands at this point, it looks like Mims is a more he's got the higher upside for sure in that regard. So that's just something that immediately jumped off the tape. And even his blocking is so freaking pretty. Like one thing that you pointed out ad nauseum with his college tape is when he blocks, he tries to get close to control the receiver and he rolls his hips. Because if you're out in space, if you're out in space and it's hard to block a fast defensive back out in space. And if you're just trying to block them with straight arms and hands, you're not going to have that much power. Like in the trenches where you can get a direct shot on someone, you can have a lot of power. But like he's really good at getting in there, rolling his hips. And then when he rolls his hips, that's when you see him actually moving people. And one of the things that I loved when I was watching the Bills film was he was doing a crack block where he freaking went down to crack the one technique. And on his way to crack the one tech, he chipped the shit out of Jerry Hughes and knocked him off his path. Chipped the shit out of Jerry Hughes, and then he hit the one tech and had a good block on him too. Like, you don't see receivers doing that very often.
Yeah.
And Mims got size, but Mims is only 207.
It's the physicality. The only thing I do notice with him in terms of like crack blocking and things like that is there was times, and again, I don't know if you watched the film of the not obviously this game it came out today, but it's not up yet for me. But the last game he threw his body too much into the blocks where he was actually missing a couple of blocks in terms of his body control. So there was a couple of times
against
where
the Bills or the Chiefs.
The Bills. He was a little bit overzealous where he was launching into guys and not squaring up guys. So that was a problem in terms of his crack blocking that needs a little bit of work. But he'll fix that. But in terms of his physicality, his willingness to block, his mentality of go up and get the ball, he's been impressive. Somebody asked if he was getting open the last game. I haven't really watched yet. I don't know. I know the first week against the Bills, he was doing a pretty good job. There was definitely some work that could have been used into his routes in terms of him committing more to his stop step and getting his drive step and his line step inside of his frame. Also using a little bit more of his hands. There were some things that I want to see him anticipate better in terms of punching over, chopping through, things like that, or punching through, chopping, that he wasn't doing. But let's go to some of the YouTube stuff because it's flooding. But yeah, he listen, it's Mims, it's Crowder, it's Becton, Fant. That's the only positives. I named another guy from the defense, but from the offense. But we're getting flooded with the stuff in the YouTube. Some people were saying, trade Darnold has no talent around him. Trade the number one pick. We've addressed that so many times that it's not. If you think it's just play calling and just talent, you're not watching. Bro. You're not watching,
or you don't know what you're watching.
If you're watching broadcasts. You're listening to other streams who are not breaking down film. I can tell you that right now. And if you don't think we did, again, go back. I break down every single game, and you can contest me. You could send me a play. Okay, here at 2 hours in and 11 minutes, you're wrong on this Darnold play. Have at it, because we can discuss all day.
And by the way, just for those that don't know or maybe new to the show or whatever, Joe was a huge Darnold backer. Literally broke down so many hours worth of Darnold tape and was gushing after Darnold his rookie year, and Darnold was his QB1 for the 2018 draft. So Joe has all the reasons in the world to root for Darnold and to stand by him, but he has pretty much come over to the dark side with me.
So some people are talking this Q's one-on-one or whatever. It seems like he's trying to say in the chat to trade that number one pick, build around a bad quarterback. And then somebody came back with a perfect response and said, with that plan, we're the Vikings or the Bears. I love that response from It's Snoopy. So that's a perfect, good. I don't have to say anything else about that. So great response. James Morgan. I'd rather see James more than Joe Flacco at this point. Again, probably helps the tank.
Oh, I would love to play James Morgan. I would love that. You're not winning a game. You're not winning a game with James Morgan at quarterback. With this team and this coaching, you play James Morgan, you're not winning.
This guy's getting attacked now. That at least this is from a while ago, because I'm going back. Somebody said you repeat yourself in every chat room and refuse to listen to logic and common sense, dude. Like all this stuff. Dark demonic. I thought that was like dark demonic, like something with the devil. And he said it had something to do with Grandma's Boy or something like that, which I get his name now. Which a huge shout out to Dark Demonic, because he actually goes through like the plays of the YouTube shows I do every week and timestamps things. So I appreciate that. Sam Darnold for Sean Payton. Somebody, I saw that question posed on Twitter recently. What would you trade for Sean Payton, the coach, to come here next year? What are your thoughts on that? Again, low percentage chance, but we're just spitballing some shit here.
Well, I'm definitely not giving up my first round pick. There's no way I'm giving up potential number one overall pick. Might I give up the end of the first round? Maybe, but
the Seahawks pick for Sean Payton.
Maybe, because the thing with him is you're getting a sure thing. You're getting a sure thing, a coach who's won a Super Bowl and has been close to getting there numerous other times. consistently good offenses year in, year out. And I was actually chatting with Scott Mason, and I was like, yeah, the thing about Peyton that scares me a little bit, though, is his age. And he's actually not that old, comparatively speaking. Like, he's like 56 or something like that. And like Belichick and Saban, those guys are close to 70. So it's not out of the realm of possibility.
Really old too?
Yeah, Pete Carroll's like maybe 69. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that you could maybe get 10 more years out of Peyton, maybe, especially since like maybe he feels like he was robbed out of that year or two where he had the suspension. So maybe I might do that. I'd have to think about that a little bit more.
Trevor, this is his defense of keeping Trevor Lawrence is just hopeful. That's about it. Watch his film. There's a difference between just putting blind faith in a 4th round pick like James Morgan. Obviously, it's more than blind faith, but Trevor Lawrence is much more than just hope. He's the highest prospect to come out since Luck. There's a reason he's so highly touted.
He's got everything, man. He really does have everything.
Darn. Yeah, there's a ton of stuff. I'm trying to.
The only knock on Lawrence that I've seen, it's not like I've, watched this, so many of his tapes or whatever, is sometimes he's too confident in some of his abilities and stuff that sometimes, he might be
rather be too confident than lack of confidence.
Yeah. Sometimes he's so confident that sometimes he'll take the more dangerous throw as opposed to just taking the easier thing, which, has, backfired on occasion with him. But other than that, I mean, it's like, but again, though, that's the difference between Kirk Cousins type of guy that's going to, get you first downs and move the ball, but then get stalled in the red zone versus, special type of player like Russell Wilson that's just going to make a what the fuck cut type of throw is that touchdown for you, when you need it most.
Another question we got was from let me see. Beloved Peace. Again, I'm going back a little bit farther. I'm gonna catch up because we have a ton of questions here. Would you guys be opposed to drafting Penei Sewell in the early round and Zach Wilson later in the round? Listen, I love Sewell, but you're not going to skip on the number 1 quarterback in the draft to draft a tackle. You draft that quarterback because he's more valuable than an entire starting offensive line if he works out to be what he's supposed to be.
Yeah, the thing about quarterbacks, too, is that not only is it by far the most important position, but you also got to look at it like this. Quarterback, because of the nature of the position, they get injured a lot less. Like offensive line, you're smacking into 300-pound guys every play. They get hurt a lot more. Quarterbacks can play 15, 20-something years. So if you get the right guy, and that's the hope, they'll play 20 years for you like, Brett Favre or Tom Brady. Drew Brees has been with the Saints for what? His first season. He's been with the Saints for about 15 years now. So that's the hope, is that, and if you can get a guy to play for you for that long, I mean, that's really saying something. So,
somebody said so 4 or 5 of our O-line are having good seasons. Joe, are you watching the same game as me? That's not what I said at all. Fant's having a okay season, which is higher than his expectations. Becton is having a really good season. McGovern's been disappointing. Greg Van Roten, based on his expectations of him being a backup to a really bad player, he's been a below average starter, which is okay for what he's been signed for. Lewis has been terrible. So I never said that 4 of our 5 offensive linemen have been having good seasons. I think if anything, 2 of them have been average to above average, with Becton being very good and with Fant being okay, which is again higher than his expectations. So I think 2 guys on the offensive line right now are exceeding expectations in Fant and Greg Van Roten, while other guys have been disappointing in my opinion, McGovern and Lewis. So I never said that they're having great seasons, but I don't know why that.
Joe, I know you're going through the chat right now, but based on that last question, you're talking about Becton and all the offensive linemen. Would it be appropriate to take some time right now to talk about Becton a little bit?
Yeah, go ahead.
I feel like this recent Bills game was his worst game by far, in my opinion.
I said again, I know you're not watching the shows until after whatever, because you don't want to have the same opinions that I've been saying by listening to me. I said the same exact thing. The Bills game, he had a couple of flashy plays, but he was very like average in terms of like that game versus like the Niners game and stuff like that. He did struggle a little bit in the Bills game.
Yeah, and I feel like out of all the rushers he's went against, Mario Addison, 97 for the Bills, has given him the most trouble. And I'm not exactly sure what it is, but Makai's playing, or when he's playing against Addison, he's shooting with his hands too high and too early too often. And Addison is able to get under him a little bit. Makai's tall, and so many times Addison is just controlling Makai's arms. So Makai is shooting his arms out before he can get good contact on Addison. And Addison is grabbing a hold of his forearms, pushing his forearms up, getting under him. And he got lots of pressures against Makai in that game. So, I mean, again, he's a rookie. And he's
he's
a rookie, and he's going, and Addison, his PFF grade's not that good. And maybe he's very shitty against the run. And I will say Makai fucking tossed him around in the run game, around. So while he might have gotten the better of Makai in a lot of pass reps, Makai did knock him off his socks many times in that game too. So in the run game. So, but Addison's had a good amount of sacks over recent years of his career. So it is a crafty pass rusher going against a rookie. Addison's with the Bills next year, and year 2 with Makai. I doubt that you will see Addison continue to take advantage of Makai. I don't see it happening.
Yeah, and listen, again, based on our expectations of Becton, we thought he was going to not struggle a little bit, but struggle more than he has his first 8 weeks of his season, and he did miss a game or two. But overall, massive hit on that pick so far. But yeah, he did struggle a little bit versus the Bills. I'm not going to say struggle. The first, his, let's say, what he's played at 7 games now. He only missed that 1 game, right, against the.
He missed part of the Colts game too.
Yeah, but overall, he's had let's just say he's played 7 games again. I forget if he missed 2 or 1. 6 out of his 7 games have been plus really, really good starts where
I don't think he played against the Broncos. I don't think he played against the Broncos.
Well, he came out. Remember they put him in for 5 snaps.
Yeah.
So, okay, so he's missed 2 probably 2
full games.
2 full games of reps. But so 6 out of those 8 or 4 out of those 6 games have been very, very good, or 5 out of those 6 games have been very, very good. And then he struggled against the Bills a little bit, but he made a few highlight plays versus the Bills, but it wasn't a great game from him overall.
And this is, I tweeted and tagged him in it, and he liked it. So I guess that means he was more or less agreeing with my point. But I tweeted at Brandon Thorne, who breaks down offensive line play extensively, more so than anyone else on Twitter that I know of. And I said, I don't watch every offensive line like he does, but I said, I have to imagine that there aren't many offensive linemen in the entire NFL that consistently move defenders 5+ yards downfield.
It's ridiculous.
When we talk about Makai creating space, he's opening up fucking gigantic holes that you can fit a Mack truck through.
Literally drive a truck through. People say that figuratively, he drives plenty of times 5 to 10 yards where you could literally drive 2 trucks through his. Yeah.
What other offensive lineman in the NFL is doing that? Cause this is year 1 with Makai, and I'm I know Quinton Nelson's a fucking road grader and he's pancaking dudes and stuff. I get that, but who else is literally lifting defenders and throwing them and sticking with and finishing the block? It's got to be a handful of guys at best, that could do that with consistency.
Yeah, he's doing really well. Obviously he has to work on some things. There's times where he lunges at guys a little bit too much, where I want to see him, grab hold of guys, pull them tight, and climb that tree, as you say with offensive linemen. There's a little bit too much lunging. There's a little bit too much of him trying to pop guys. Sometimes he'll get his feet frozen a little bit in vertical sets, things like that, hands a little bit high, but overall, he's been playing like a top half of the league left tackle easily in year 1 with no training camp and all that stuff, which is fantastic. I think he's going to be a top 10 tackle for years. Unless he takes a major step downwards. I think the only thing that's really going to hurt his career would be injuries. Those shoulders with all that weight, Kyle.
Injuries and not sticking to his diet regimen.
Yeah, which, by the way, I'm joking with the shoulders, but somebody tweeted, I'm worried about his shoulders of that weight. And by the way, something with talking about Twitter and the guys who break down the film or who do not, and we'll get back to this again, a lot of comments in here. I'm trying to go back as far as I can, but Bucky Brooks saying that Quinton Williams has been a massive disappointment, and then comparing them to him not getting sacks like guys like Myles Garrett, Bosa, or both the Bosa brothers. Like, what do you think about some of his comments recently? Because I think he's an absolute joke now. He's showing his true colors. He doesn't watch. He doesn't know what he's watching, or he doesn't. No, not that he doesn't know what he's watching. Because he played the NFL and he's a scout, but he clearly does not watch the Jets games. If you think Quinton Williams has been a massive disappointment, and then comparing him to his sack numbers with edge rushers, different position guy. So
totally different. And by the way, when he was trying to defend himself, when Jets fans started chirping at him,
he sounded dumber.
His defense was so stupid. He like quoted Adam Gase or something like that. And Scott Mason had like a really good response to something. I forget exactly what Scott said, but he's like, Scott's like, you're quoting a bad head coach, probably the worst head coach in the league, and who only focuses on one side of the ball as your defense. Like, that's your defense, really?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But no, to say Quinton's been a massive disappointment is wrong. And to Bucky's defense,
it's very wrong. It is very.
It
wrong.
is. It's very wrong. But to Bucky's defense, I mean, like, I know he does this for a living, but to watch every game of every team.
Yes, but Kyle, that's
unreasonable.
Exactly why we don't come out and give opinions of people that we don't watch film on.
Sure. But I think you can still say that Quinton's been, for my take, as much as I like Quinton out of college, to me, Quinton's been a little bit disappointing.
But like last year, he was pretty big disappointment in terms of like what you actually expected. This year, he's rounding up into what you think he's going to be. Like if he keeps,
you're starting to see more and more every week. You're starting
like right
to
now.
See it. Like that's the college player I remember.
If he continues to play like he is right now, he's gonna be. Like, let's say he keeps getting the sacks he is, the pressure he is, the run stuffs he gets, and this is not stats anything. This is based on the film that I watch breakdown every week. He's a top 10 D tackle. At the end of this year, he might be a Pro Bowler, and he's 22 years old. He's going to keep improving. So I don't think he's been maybe a little tiny bit in terms of the number 3 pick, but a massive disappointment is a lie. I think he's going to be a top 10, top 5 D tackle. Some of the other comments. Somebody asked you what you saw of Fields. I guess you can go back through that quickly, just because we already discussed it a little bit.
Why don't I've mentioned what I saw of Fields already, so why don't you say what you've seen Fields?
I've watched like 20 minutes on broadcast. I haven't.
Okay, then here's what I can say about Fields. I got like 3 of his games where I have the all 22, and I'm trying to get a hold of more. And hopefully hopefully I don't even need to worry about that, because hopefully it's number 1 pick and it's going to be Lawrence. But I'll still watch Fields anyway, just in case. For some crazy reason,
do I waste my time breaking down Fields? Like, do I really do 120 plays of Fields?
I mean, I guess it's a possibility that they could, but listen,
I don't think I'd do it.
Listen, Lawrence, and I promise I'll get into Fields in one moment. So Lawrence is really that quarterback that has like this consensus, like, okay, this guy is legit, like Luck was. And Luck turned out to be what everyone was expecting him to be. Like he lived up to the hype. And so Lawrence is that next guy who's definitely going to live up to the hype.
Yeah.
But there were some people that were saying, oh, maybe the Colts will take Robert Griffin, but they never ended up doing it. I anticipate the same thing with Fields. You're going to have some people that are going to say, I prefer Fields. At the end of the day, the number 1 pick is going to be Lawrence. It just is. All right, just accept that. That's what I'm hoping for. But anyway, let's say that
you're hoping that he is the number 2 pick because the Jets beat the Jets win and the Jaguars continue to lose.
Oh God, please no. All right.
By the way, really quick, we had a guy named Anthony in the chat a while ago say that rip to the Jets. Sincerely, a Giants fan.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thanks,
you. 1 and 2.
I hope you
you're a Giants fan.
win tonight.
Yeah. Okay. Continue. We got a lot of. We have to do like lightning round of the YouTube chat because.
Sure. All right. I'll try to make this quick with Fields. I haven't watched a lot of them yet. I've only watched 1 game and maybe part of another game. And I'll get back to him at some point, I guess. But if anyone's thinking, all right, Ben Blessington, let me criticize you, man. Ben Blessington keeps saying, "Oh, Greg Roman connection." All right, well, Greg Roman, although he's from Baltimore, and yes, Joe Douglas was in Baltimore, Roman did not work in Baltimore with Joe Douglas. So you could say Baltimore connection, but you're stretching it a little bit there. Now, Greg Roman has a great success with mobile quarterbacks. So I think because, and I'm sorry, this is not racist, but I think because Justin Fields is black, I think Ben is automatically assuming that he's this special running talent. He's not. He's not even on the level of Colin Kaepernick's running. And Kaepernick was a good runner. He's not that type of runner. All right. So, to have this idea that, to put him with Greg Roman and you're going to have this Lamar Jackson-y type of offense, you're not. You're not going to have a Lamar Jackson.
I'm not into the Greg Roman hype, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm kind of not either. Remember, Rex Ryan fired him at the beginning of the 2016 season, which, that kind of. And then Anthony Lynn ended up doing a better job in Buffalo than Roman did in that 2016 year. But anyway, but Fields, from what I did see, he's got a very strong arm. In terms of deep ball, like Sam Darnold has like a strong arm. He can push the ball downfield. He can throw the ball with velocity. Sam Darnold has no touch on his deep ball, or I don't say no touch. He doesn't have good touch on his deep ball. Fields has good touch on his deep ball, and he can also zing it in there. He does, although I criticize his mobile ability, he can move. He's just not a special runner, as far as I can see.
Yeah.
And from that 2019 tape, he wasn't super good at clicking through his reads. And a lot of the coaches' film that I saw, he was playing easy teams, and they didn't ask him to do that much in those games. So I have to watch a lot more before I can really comment more.
Some people have faith that the James Robinson and the Jaguars might be able to run on the Packers. Hey, I'm all about the confidence there. Dark is saying he's worried about the LA Chokers. I think that was him. Again, I'm going through there's a ton of stuff in here. I'm just trying to go through. Let me catch up a little bit so I could get. Somebody said facts, Kyle, at 7:32. So whatever you're talking about at 7:32, facts, Kyle.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'll have to go back and watch it.
No, it's okay. Joe Douglas will be speaking to the media tomorrow at 4:30. I didn't hear that. If so, he's gonna get rocked.
This is the mid-year press conference.
The media is so soft though. Like they don't ask follow-up questions.
Yeah, for whatever reason, they're handling Adam Gase with kid gloves. I don't know why.
Like literally, if you're a media member and he says, "Oh, I have to watch the tape to see what I have to adjust to," coach. 31 other NFL coaches do that. Why can't you? Like that's or this game, we didn't have enough plays in the second half. Why don't you have an NFL coach? Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
So bad. I don't want to get into all that stuff. It's stupid.
By the way, can we consider Robbie part of the Jets beat, right?
Yeah, he's actually credited where he can actually ask questions and stuff like that. Where some people claim.
And let's just be honest. If I'm being honest, Robbie definitely understands football more than any other person
easily.
on the Jets beat.
Yeah, it's easy.
The Jets beat overall is when you're talking about actual football scheme, X's and O's, and player attributes, they're dumb.
Yeah, somebody said Trevor Lawrence won't be coming out this year because he wants to win another championship. Clemson won't win this year due to Trevor having COVID-19. Okay, that's just stupid. That's just stupid. Yeah, I'm not going to come out because I want to win a championship. COVID-19 is going to last until January. Like, what are you talking about? 4:30. The Johnsons were racist. I'm not even gonna. Adam Gase's Chip Kelly 2.0. Give Chip Kelly more credit than that. There is a ton of stuff. I'm just trying to read through it. There's actually questions or anything worth addressing. So 4 or 5 are. Oh, this is okay. I'm starting to catch up a little bit here because I just saw. Somebody said breaking news. Another person said, "Blewett, I'm smoking you in the pick'ems." I'm like 3 games behind you, Dr. Kassassin, whatever. I'm like 3 games behind Kyle too, like 4 games behind Kyle, or no, 2 games behind Kyle. Something. You and Kyle are freaking first and second place though. So Kyle,
how many people are doing it?
8. There's 8 of us, I think.
Okay, and
Marcus, I need to be able to track it. I can't do like 20. Yeah, me and Marcus, we're tied. I think you might have 1 game on me this week. What's the breaking news, Dark, that you got here? Donald hurt his shoulder again.
That's not
breaking news about Darnold. Yeah, but apparently it was nothing big.
They're giving him an MRI, but
Darnold re-aggravated shoulder. Jets MRI shows a re-aggravation of his right shoulder. Will attempt to manage and work through it. Yeah, that's not super breaking. Best hands in Jets history, Wayne Corbett. I honestly didn't watch enough of him.
Yeah, I couldn't say.
Marshall has better hands than Mims. Let's be real. What is that based on? Mims dropped balls when he.
Bro. Look at Marshall's entire career. He's always
had
at the
drop
top of the league
problems.
every year with drops. So
And it was funny too because Mims.
About.
I didn't see a lot of the Mims drops in college. Everybody was talking about, and then you actually will go based on percentage. He had like the second highest contested catch rate in the NFL in college football. He was playing a large part of his senior season. Did he play till he was a senior? His second last season in college, he was playing with a broken hand, and he had a lower drop percentage than like CeeDee Lamb and Jerry Jeudy. So he didn't have a ton of drops in college. Like people said he did. Based on some websites, hands. He has good hands for sure, and he catches the ball correctly too. A lot of people they overlook the actual technique of catching balls. He has great technique catching balls. He really does.
Dude, this dude was a born wide receiver. I'm just saying that right now. He's a born wide receiver. And by the way, if you're doubtful about Mims and his catching ability and stuff, just here's a plug. Subscribe to JetsXFactor.com and go and watch Joe Blewett's he's got 2 parts. Denzel Mims breakdown, 1 part, I believe, with Marcus Coleman. And by the way, let me just clarify something about Brandon Marshall.
Hold on. Can I talk about that real quick too, in terms of that plug? With a former NFL defensive back who played 11 years, who, by the way, the 15th of this month, me and him are going to be doing a live stream 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Same thing that me and Kyle do. So you guys can ask questions, call in, talk to Marcus Coleman. Again, NFL defensive back, former NFL defensive back, ask whenever you want. But he said himself personally that he feels that he could be a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL, that he has that capability. So
wow.
let's, and I said that his comparison was AJ Green. That's what I saw. It's not AJ Green of this year, but AJ Green in the past.
And AJ Green was a top 5-ish receiver for many years.
Many years, yes. But continue with Marshall.
Yeah, so I just want to clarify about Marshall. Like, let's not make any mistake about it. Marshall would use his hands, go up and snatch balls. He was good at doing that, and he made lots of amazing catches throughout his career and many amazing catches with the Jets. But Marshall really had lots of concentration drops, lots of them. And you don't see that as much with Mims. So, did Marshall have good hands if you're, not factoring in concentration? Yes, but Marshall dropped a lot of balls, and you don't see that with Mims. So whoever said that, you're just wrong.
It's all about consistency too. Like, just because you make one good snag doesn't mean that you have great hands. Like Larry Fitzgerald, the consistency is what it's all about. So let's see.
I love Fitz, man. You watch Fitz too, and he always knows how to fall forward for, like, he's kind of like a running back in that he always knows how to fall forward for an extra couple yards. Like
my Blau pal.
Yeah.
What have you seen overall from the defense before I'm going to catch up some more of the YouTube? What have your overall thoughts been on the defense the last couple of weeks? Which, by the way, for a guy who is a big time defensive coordinator, for him to be spot dropping his linebackers like he does is insanely frustrating to watch. There's high school teams who pattern match.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I really can't tell you. If it's people use the lack of faith in the linebackers excuse, but spot dropping is literally one of the easiest things to attack in the second level of a defense. Just spread them out. Just attack. Spread them out horizontally. That's all you have to do. It's really, really easy to attack that. So how many you can literally go? I put up a highlight tape of people running snags, jerk routes, hitches right in between 2 zones of a linebacker this year. It's happened like 1,000 times because the guys aren't matching. By the way,
to your point, you were saying that, even high schools teach pattern matching and stuff. So true. Really like some of the best follows on Twitter, if you want to learn like X's and O's, is just following some really good high school coaches that will share knowledge and stuff. And a good follow is a guy named Kyle Kogan, who's like he says that he's fluent in Sabanese, Nick Saban language. So, there's a couple of videos of him on YouTube, and like he puts stuff out on Twitter every now and then too, and he's written a couple articles about pattern matching and stuff. And, he's literally in some of these YouTube videos, he's explaining like, different pattern matchings and when they'll match it. And he even shows at the end of like one of these videos, like videos of his high school team and how he coaches his players to pattern match and stuff. Mm-hmm. So in case you're interested in that, Kyle Kogan, high school coach in Missouri. Yeah, I don't know, Joe. It is strange. And the linebackers are really shitty at covering too. Really, really shitty at covering.
HLLVN. I'm sold on Trevor, but I don't think he's sold on being a Jet. Listen, every situation for the team who's picking first is going to be bad. It's not, was Burrow thrilled, I'm sure, about going to the Bengals last year? No, but it's something you have to do. It's not like you have very rare situations where a really good team is picking one overall. When has it happened? Even the Colts, when they got luck, were 3-13 or whatever it was, or 2-14 with Painter, or 1-15, wherever the hell it was. So kind of stupid. Joe, my man, you look like Jimmy Graham. I've gotten so many different like baseball players, and Jimmy Graham, that's kind of.
I could see a little bit of Jimmy Graham. I could see that a little bit. I think it might be the short hair, because Jimmy Graham always has like a short shaved head. All right. So it might be that. Other than that,
how is Lawrence not coming out? Still discussion. You think he's gonna bypass $30 million fully guaranteed to go take food and nutrition classes at Clemson?
Andrew Luck did it. Andrew Luck did it. That's all I'm saying.
Kevin Jackson, what's up? I see you in the chat.
Andrew Luck definitely would have been a number 1 overall pick, and that's a recent era. Andrew Luck was drafted 8 years ago, so it's not that long ago. But when Adam Schefter tweeted out yesterday morning that multiple NFL executives are telling him Trevor Lawrence is coming out, that to me made me, at ease.
I see.
Schefter's not really wrong.
We're catching up a little bit with the chat now. People are talking about the best hands. You're talking about Brandon Marshall. I see some Jericho Cotchery. I see some Don Maynard.
But
I would say Jericho Cotchery
is not extending his arms and has a big catch radius where he's going up and getting balls.
I think people are talking about in terms of actually it hitting his hands and him catching it. Where Mims really does have that extra ability to not just extend to a ball, but that extra reach that he has, like just that extra 2 inches he has to contort his body is ridiculous. Like he has his ability to go get balls and track balls and contort his body, snag it away from his body is ridiculous. I am really excited for Mims' future with a competent offensive coordinator and more weapons around him and a good.
And we saw it yesterday against the Chiefs. That big catch that he had.
And then, you want to know something really funny? So I know you don't gamble. I do. I think Mims had 4 or 3 catches for like 42 yards or whatever. I had a bet that Mims was going to get over 45 yards. And I'm like, oh, halftime, 42 yards. Got this. Like one more catch.
Forgot Adam Gase and his halftime adjustments.
Yeah.
Or lack thereof.
I would say that so far in Jets history, though, like in my lifetime, like Jericho Cotchery was the most like reliable receiver the Jets had. And
sure, and
against the Browns will never. That I'll always remember that. One of my first games.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a lot of Jets fans listening out there who like actually have gone to a lot of games. I have season tickets.
You went to that game?
No, not that game. That was in Cleveland, right? I think it was in Cleveland. The game, I don't know exactly. I think it was against the Patriots. I don't know what year it was. One of my first ones. This wasn't the first one. I went to 3 or 4 before this, but the game where Cotchery caught a ball like down the right sideline, I think it was, and he got hit by 2 guys. Like they tabletopped him. He fell on a guy's back, rolled over, got up and ran for a touchdown. That was like one of my first like Jet memories. When I was there, I remember
really cool player.
I remember getting the Jets cheerleaders to pose for me and take a picture at the end of the game, which was always fun. I started a Raiders suck chant. I was like 10 years old. That was fun. Good times.
Cool. I think I pissed Cotchery off a little bit. I met him once, and I
got a signed jersey from him. I met him at the facility. He has nobody ever knows this. I don't know if it's.
I was there. I was there.
He has a glass rod in one of his forearms.
I didn't know that.
An accident. Yeah.
So I guess we must have crossed paths that day, but we didn't even know it. Because I was there. DeBrickashaw was there too, right?
Yeah, they're at the table. I have a picture. Okay, continue. I have a picture of that from like.
I have a picture too.
Facebook from like 2007.
No, this was in 2010, the first year of because they had just traded for Santonio Holmes, and I asked Jericho Cotchery, I was like, "Oh, with the addition of Holmes, where do you think you're going to play this year?" So
what the hell, man? Why would you ask him that?
I don't fucking know. I mean, this was 10 years ago. So I think I kind of pissed him off. No, I didn't mean like you're not going to play, but like how are they going to use you this year? Like, how's it going to be different type of thing?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. He might have viewed it as a slight or something like that, though. So he didn't seem too happy when I asked him.
Yeah, hold on. Let me go back into the chat. Wesley Walker, Hopkins has great hands. Yeah, of course. We're not talking about them. Mims is legit, man. I'm so incredibly happy we drafted him. Give this guy Lawrence. Something that we will talk about though, and we addressed this in the last podcast the live stream that we did. The move to trade down and get Mims, I don't give Douglas credit for that because if he was taken
Yes.
after he
Yes.
gets
we
traded
talked about
down,
this.
I would have been very, very, very pissed.
Yes, we spoke about this, and I think I even brought that up first, but maybe you did. I don't know. But yes, we've spoken about that before. Yeah, if Douglas had this big mastermind plan that I'm going to trade back 9 spots and still take Mims at 58, like that was an unbelievably huge gamble. And
Yeah.
I'm not going to give credit to a guy for picking up an extra 4th round pick or whatever it was for taking an unbelievably
Can you
huge
see this
gamble.
picture?
I can. And that's your buddy Vinny, right?
Yeah, Vinny. Yep. I had to show the proof.
Cool. You had a Cotchery jersey. I didn't have one.
Throwback Titans too, which I never liked those jerseys, but I
didn't like it much either. Why did they stop?
Kelly Green.
Why did they stop using those?
I have no idea. Eric Decker in 2015. Yeah, I like Decker a lot when he was on the Jets. Really reliable, really good route runner.
And Decker, I wouldn't say that hands were a great strong suit of him.
Mims reminds me of Michael Thomas. I'm not going to go that far because I think Michael Thomas is a much better route runner. Mims has a little bit more physicality, I think, in terms of like going up and getting it. But Mims.
But you want to talk about athletic ability, though. You envision Mims doing other things that Michael Thomas is not going to be good at.
That's what I'm saying. I think he's better athletically than Michael Thomas is in terms of just pure physical standpoint type of stuff. And that's why those videos I broke down of Mims, again, if you're new, you can always go back and watch them. But some of those videos where he was running routes with bad technique, but was still getting out of breaks really, really cleanly.
Yes.
Was something that I broke down and was saying how freaking impressive it was where he's not getting over his stop steps. He's leaning back. He's sitting down in that chair, which you don't want to see him do, and still getting out of breaks in 3 steps was ridiculous. Like I have not seen that before where he's literally lunging and jumping into breaks, which again, for people who don't know, you want to slam down into breaks. You don't want to jump into breaks. And he was still getting out of breaks quickly was absurd. So I was really, really happy with him.
Well, that's a superb athlete right there. There's a reason why he fucking blew out of the combine. I mean, like, blew the combine.
Somebody said show film of Clark getting pancaked by Becton if you can. I don't have that yet, to be honest.
You could just put up the ball. You could put up the Baldy thing that he tweeted out.
If you tell me what time in the game that was, I'll pull up that play on my Game Pass and show people. But honestly, that play wasn't that impressive. I'm saying like, yeah, it was nice, but people.
It's mostly Alex Lewis.
It was mostly Alex Lewis. I can pull it up if somebody's.
And you could even argue too that a bad rep by Clark, too. But yeah, sure. You got to give Becton some credit. I mean, Becton is super powerful.
Pancaking somebody else.
And then because Becton's got long length and stuff, once Clark gets off balance, Becton can then use his long arms to extend him once he's off balance to continue to keep him off balance.
Yeah, of course.
So give Becton credit too, but Lewis was
the main guy who did that. That wasn't.
It's a solid shot.
I have plenty of plays of Becton just absolutely destroying guys, but I don't have that play specifically. So
his tape is fun, man.
Especially offensive line too is something. Okay, I have this play. This isn't really even the most impressive play. I'm just trying to find a play of him pancaking somebody, but he's just it's so fun too. Like especially the last couple of years, I've gotten so much more into offensive line. And to watch a guy like Becton is such a relief after watching guys in the past they've seen, but obviously, drops.
Watch how fucking far this 300-pound guy is going to fly.
Nothing to do. So, okay, I'm going to lay a shot. Smartly drops his hips, hits him with the form, and look at again.
Dude, that is a 300-pound man flying.
I love it. It is so fun. So I'll give him credit on plays like that. Again, the Lewis play with Clark, a lot of people hype it up. It wasn't as nice as people think it was, but there was definitely some blocks. I'm not gonna criticize. Okay. I'll show another one. Hold on. Just how far he moves people, and I don't have to comment on it. Just watch it. Like we can go over technique on the other shows I do, but he's absurd. Like, come on, man. Again, this is you're talking about like defining a gap. Like this guy starts at inside the left hash, and he moves them all the way to the bottom of the numbers. And he can still go if he wanted to. Like that is
you're absurd. Talking about that is a hole. Like that is how
where
you
he
create
starts
holes. Like
to where he ends. And this isn't. And some people will look at holes and say, okay, it's a huge hole. There's a difference between kicking a guy out as far as you want to, and stringing where a defensive lineman is stringing you along. That's two different things. He's trying to kick this guy out. The defensive lineman is not trying to string him along to stay in the play. He is just
he's completely erased out of the play. There's no way he's making
a good play
the play.
And a bad play in terms of he does this a little bit too much where he loads up and tries to throw guys, where some guys will have this disconnection and they'll build a plant and get back into the play. So there's sometimes where I want to see him, really grab guys by the chest plate and run them out of plays instead of throwing them out of plays. That's one criticism you have in his game. But then you're not going to see as many plays like this, but this is ridiculous. Like that, this is it's 97, right? So how heavy is Addison? 305 pounds?
No. He's like 265, 270.
Okay. So I'm completely wrong, but still this is ridiculous. So, super happy with him. We were talking about the defense a little bit too, like stuff you're happy from the defense. Ashton Davis has been disappointing, but listen, disappointing based on what your expectations were. I did a show again with Marcus Coleman. I thought he's raw and I thought he had a lot of room to grow. So I'm not disappointed that he's getting beat deep in coverage and things like that, because I never thought he was great at that at college. Other than that, from the defensive side, there's three guys who have really been really, really impressive. Q, John Franklin Myers, Huff. Three guys you might be able to build around a little bit. Going forward. So those are the three guys. Other than that, Bless Austin, huge disappointment for this year for the people who thought he was going to be a solid number two. He's bad. He's not good.
He can't read route combos.
Dude, he opens his hips up immediately. And then this game, he got beat for like 2 touchdowns. I saw people saying, "Oh, he had a positive game." Why? Because he had 1 big hit or 2 big hits. Like that's not what it's great. That's a secondary attribute of playing cornerback in the NFL, but it's not a primary thing you look for. It's one of the things you look for, but if he's getting roasted in coverage,
And that Gabriel Davis touchdown that was called back, he totally blew the coverage there.
Somebody asked thoughts on Ashton Davis. It's based on what your expectations were. I didn't think he was great in college. I thought he was super, super, super raw. Again, have it all on a tape of me with Marcus Coleman breaking it down. He's super raw, reading concepts, opening his hips up early, understanding leverages, positioning himself over route concepts. His eyes were locked onto the quarterback at all times, and then you'd break him the ball, which you can't do in the NFL. He was really raw. Who he needs to develop, so he's going to struggle. That just is what it is. Then you see people coming out in camp and, oh my God, Ashton Davis looks so good. But again, not to attack the beat writers. Sabo knows what he's talking about, but when you're watching on that field level, it's really hard to see what was the play call, what was the defense, was it a bad throw, was it a misread by the quarterback, why did he get the interception, those type of things. So he had a pick or two in camp, and they did a backflip, and people were blowing smoke up his ass, which I was like, okay, great that there's reports coming out that are good about him, but I don't see him turning around as quickly as his first camp, because he's really raw. So he's been disappointing. If you expected a lot of him, I think Bless Austin, again, for the guys who thought he was gonna be a number 2 or 3 corner, disappointing.
No way.
Austin could be a 5 or 6 or maybe even a 4, or grow into being a dime corner. Yeah, sure. But he's not a starting corner right now. There's absolutely no way. And his tackling is awful, minus big hits.
Yeah, I don't have much faith for Bless Austin at all. I do not like corners that play stupid. And he had 3 back-breaking plays in that Bills game. And all of them came relatively late in the game. All of them came in the second half. The Gabriel Davis touchdown, he blew a coverage there. I'm forgetting exactly what it was at the moment, but if you have the play, he blew it there. So there was a Gabriel Davis touchdown against the Bills, which was called back for an illegal formation, which was bullshit, because there was a guy. There was a guy on the line of scrimmage.
I literally have Austin beat pump fake called back illegal formation.
Yeah. It's. I don't know if you want to pull that play up. You don't have to. Then there was a big wheel route at the end of the game.
Which, even just based on this leverage, why is he playing with such heavy inside leverage while reading the quarterback and letting his guy get in front of him? If anything, you want to play with outside leverage, see him in your peripheral vision and jump the 2.
What is he doing here?
Out, if that's your call. But if this was a cover, if this was a 2 read or a palms, this doesn't make sense, which it's not, because if he was to jump this 2, if it's palms, the safety has to get over the 1. That's the read. If it's palms coverage or 2 read. So that's not what he's supposed to be reading. He's supposed to be outside leverage on this guy, or even heads up. So why is he so far inside? Obviously, Josh Allen does a good job pump faking right here. He completely bites on it, and now look, he's beat for an easy touchdown, but it's called back. And then he let up 2 touchdowns this week. He's been terrible.
Yeah, and so the big wheel route in that game too, like, he doesn't carry the wheel route enough.
Oh yeah, I got that one too. Yeah.
He's starting to come down in I think he gets obsessed. Like, and didn't Robbie tweet out something like where Bless Austin likes to make hits in the flat? He gets, I guess he gets obsessed with like making a hit in the flat.
This right here is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He needs to carry this more.
Oh, for sure.
You got to take away the deeper threat before you worry about the underneath shit. Not that that's not also important, but you're blowing a coverage right there and you're leading to huge plays. And probably the most egregious one was there was a huge Devin Singletary run in the fourth quarter.
Hold on.
You got it?
You're queuing me up pretty good here. I'm like looking at these plays. I'm like, what are we going to talk about next? I think I'm doing a good job right now.
Dude, what the fuck is he doing here?
Like, listen, bro, like I get you. So he's carrying him because it's man coverage, but at a certain point, you have to notice that this is a crack.
Dude, there's a running back who's like clearly got a hole coming, man.
No, look at it. Like, come on, man. Yeah, that's bad. You gotta replace McDougal.
Oh my God.
And then there's another play in this game too, which I don't know what it was. And again, our bars are low, like Robbie said, but he also missed a tackle on the flat this game. Like he's been bad, man. So again, this is not one of those shows where we're gonna blow smoke up guys' ass because the film does not lie, and he's been awful.
No PSA to Jets fans: stop hyping players up because they work out in the offseason with their shirts off and train hard.
Tim Tebow. It's a highlight show. Stop being a Debbie Downer of the Clark play. Well, Dark, I know you watch this show every single week, so you know I put up plenty of good Becton. But I'm gonna be truthful. I'm sure you guys can definitely find a Becton. Okay. Giants are taking an L in this game. I have the Giants, I think, plus 18 in this game in a parlay. I teased it. So let's see what else we got. Can the incompetence in the Jets coaching staff make it hard to evaluate some of these players? Of course it can. Kyle, what are your thoughts on that? I think that's Sharman and Lester Phillip. Of course it can, depending on what route concepts they're calling, what the read progressions are, putting guys in square peg and in a round hole type deal. Of course, bad coaching can lead to guys not performing or showing out what they have. Quinton Williams, for an example, again, single gap penetrator guy.
Great example.
He's stunting. That's right there. Coaching example, and it's coaching, and I get that the coaching is he's kind of trying to form the best defense in terms of getting pressure because they don't have any other rushers. So you want Q holding up two guys to get other guys free. But if the coach wanted to maximize Q, he would be single gap penetrating, not holding up guys in stunts. And two gapping in general. That's not two gapping. Two gapping and holding up guys in stunts is completely different, but he's been asked to do both. So that's an example right there. So yeah, there's plenty of examples of that.
I think Greg Williams is, he's a little obsessed with kind of relying on himself to, be the savior and the glory of the defense rather than just relying on, talent and utilizing skill position. Like he's trying to be so obsessed with creating pressures on his own based on his design and scheme. And it's definitely hurting Quinton Williams for sure.
Oh yeah, no doubt. And even like Mims, certain routes he's running that I don't necessarily like in the first game. And
Which one?
Like a couple crossing routes that against like inside leverage. I don't know if he's necessarily getting the opportunity to option off the route.
I did notice it seemed almost if they were playing him inside just as much as they were playing him outside.
Yeah, which again, for coaching, whether it be route concept or him trying to get targeted, there's a couple of matchups I watched in the Chiefs game where he's one-on-one with guys and they're funneling the ball to Braxton Berrios instead of throwing up deep shots to Mims. So another example of bad coach. There's plenty of it. A tackle who's more athletic asking him to kick out guys or whatever. There's plenty of that. We're caught up in the chat though, so if you guys want to start dropping some questions, we'll get to them right away. Giants moving the ball, apparently making stops, so that's a positive. That's what we all want to hear. Again, I'm not really worried about the Giants, so I'm worried about the Jaguars.
Yes, yep, same.
So, Patriots, what are your thoughts on the Patriots game?
Cowboys again, the Eagles again, and the Redskins again. And they got the Redskins is away, but they got the Cowboys at home and the Eagles at home. What'd you say?
What are your thoughts on the Patriots game? Are you worried about the Patriots, and do you think the Jets could beat them this week? Monday Night Football. It's at MetLife, right?
You know what I'm worried about? is Bill Belichick is smart, and he always does these unconventional things that nobody's expecting, like drop kick or taking an intentional safety or allowing someone to score. Like he thinks about the game outside the box in the ways that many coaches don't, like the whole runoff rule last year, where if you get the penalty, I don't remember all the details behind that. So what I'm thinking is, let's say the Patriots have a bad year. It's week 17, and I tweeted this out weeks ago. Belichick knows the Patriots not going to the playoffs, and he sees that the Jets, if they win this game, or if they lose this game, they're going to get Trevor Lawrence.
Do you really think he's going to lose the game off? Like, do you think he's really like that?
Him? Yes. I'm not saying there's a great chance of it, but I'm saying it's a possibility with him. I wouldn't be scared of any other coach masterminding this. But if Belichick says, like, hey, listen, this kid's going to be the future, we don't want a division rival getting him, just lose the game. Let them win. And then Gase, that SOB, he'll take any win he can, even if he gets lucky. This will be this will be Gase's F you to the Jets organization. Like, yeah, F you. You're going to fire me. I'm going to go out and get this win so you can't get Trevor. Gase, so I mean, I'm a little scared about that, but that's in New England, week 17. So that's another thing. And, but yeah, I'm not too scared though, because, credit to Joe Caparosa, but Sam Darnold's been pretty bad against the Patriots. Is Gilmore going to play this week? He didn't play last week.
Yeah, I don't know. I really hope just going to the bye week, I can have a nice week of watching Sunday football with the Jets being 0-9. Like I don't want to root against the Jets, but let's be honest here. Metcalf is legit.
I'm having fun rooting against them.
There's some Metcalf talk. Terrell Owens, I don't know if that's a good. He's a freak. I'd have to watch more of his film, but I don't. He's a freakiest guy in terms of being like 6'3", big weight, and getting out of breaks. So I've seen in the last Calvin Johnson's one of them. But I think more of a freak in terms of being able to do everything more than Metcalf is exactly. Some of the out routes and the comebacks he runs, running full speed. Like, listen, a lot of guys, drive phase, it's great. Their shoulders over their knees, everything. They're pumping, and then their weight will come up, and you see their shoulders raise, 5 yards before a route. Julio pops up and breaks like from full dead sprint, like 100%. Like he is more ridiculous than Metcalf in my opinion.
Joe, go to mockdraftable.com and pull up Julio Jones spider chart. I know. I mean, I know this is, mostly, it's Q&A and film show, but you brought up stats a bajillion times. But I mentioned his because his is insane. His is insane. Yeah. Mockdraftable.com, Julio Jones. And share the screen. But yeah, I agree with you. My dad was like saying he thinks DeAndre Hopkins is the best receiver in the NFL, and I was like, nah, I think it's Julio still, man. But yeah, look at that.
Listen, I like Hopkins, but I think, listen, I don't think he's overhyped like he's a bad receiver, but I think he's a little bit overhyped in terms of how good he actually is. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
and 20-yard shuttle.
Yeah, that's not.
Somebody asked. This is why I was bringing this up. Somebody said, and credit to it's at PFF.com, which I brought up for the top free agents. Somebody said some of the top free agents that the Jets are going to pull up. Somebody asked, where do you want to spend your money in free agency? Like looking at the list again, I'm not super like in tune with who's going to be here. Like obviously guys like Godwin, bringing him in like 24 years old. Yes. Ramsey, probably a little bit too old to want too much money.
Ramsey just got locked up. He signed a contract extension.
Yes, this is an old article. Keenan Allen, nah. Kittle, if he was Kittle.
Keenan's good.
Yeah, but isn't he like 28, 29 years old and he has some injury problems?
He does have injury. He's got a couple of knee surgeries.
Yeah, I want young guys like Juju Smith, like even Robinson. Like Robinson's 27 though too, and this has to be old. Marcus Williams maybe. Like I don't know. Who is there any guys you're looking at addressing in free agency? My typical approach at free agency is
offense.
Well, yeah, offense, and then look at. I want to address positions that are not deep in the draft. So wide receiver is going to be deep in the draft, so maybe don't spend as much on wide receiver. But if you see a position like, for example, again, I'll get plenty to draft. Let's say you think the cornerback class in the draft is weak this year. address it in free agency. That's how I am. So whatever positions the Jets feel they're not going to be in range for in that late first round pick, the early second round picks in the second round that they have, address those in free agency. That's kind of my philosophy with it. But is there anybody who you're really targeting? I know Juju's out there. Juju would be nice. It's gonna be funny. We're gonna get Juju, then Darnold's gonna be gone. But
yeah, for me, it's mostly I just care about offensive guys because you're almost certain that you're going to have a new quarterback next year. Don't make the same mistake. Help this one out, and like I said, just go for offense this year. Who cares how bad your defense is next year? You shouldn't be making the playoffs next year.
Yeah.
So it's really offense. And
Will Hopkins is playing with absolute garbage quarterbacks again. This isn't a stats show. I don't care about his stats. His actual route running is super physical, but he gets locked up by physical guys. Like you saw him at times get locked up by Desir when he was playing Desir. Where Julio Jones, you can't lock him up. Like there's nothing he can't do. Where he has the speed, he has the ability to make sharp breaks. Like there's plenty of times where Hopkins is running routes where it's not the sharpest break. He's just using physicality to separate at the top of his routes. So he's a physical receiver, but he's not as well rounded as people think he is, in my opinion.
yeah, I think teams, the way that they roll coverage and stuff, I think teams fear Julio a lot more. And what's Hopkins' best attribute, right? It's going up and getting contested balls, right? Julio is just as good at doing that. Think about that crazy Super Bowl catch that he made back in 2016, dragging the feet on the sideline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
remember that?
Yeah. Somebody said
he's a great player.
OBJ. Would you be interested in Odell Beckham next year?
No. Coming off another season-ending injury.
Especially, and listen, like I know Joe Douglas is not necessarily bringing in like everybody. Like he's preached plenty of culture, and it takes a lot more than 5, 6, 7 guys to change the culture. With the Jets, and I think he a lot of team leaders, a lot of captains, things like that in free agency, or not in free agency, in the draft. So I do think he puts a premium on players like that. So for him to bring in an Odell Beckham, who's going to be 27, 28, who's been injured a decent amount in the last couple of years, and who was a me guy, at least from what I've seen. I don't know how much that's changed in Cleveland. I don't think it's the best for your young quarterback.
Yeah.
I want to see younger receivers, like the guys who are more team players, like the Jujus out there. Maybe even the Allen Robinsons. Didn't Allen Robinson he didn't get signed. He didn't get locked up yet. But no, he's the guy who went from Penn State with Hackenberg to Blake Bortles with the Jags to the Bears with Trubisky to the Bears now with Foles. So now, listen, if he doesn't sign and he sees that the Jets draft, or they're in position to draft Lawrence, or they finish with the number 1 pick, like, wouldn't you rather go play with Lawrence than re-sign with the Bears or play with Kirk Cousins?
There's no question.
Those guys at receiver I want. I don't want OBJ who's a me guy. I want listen, if you go into next year with Robinson, Mims, Crowder, and like another guy in like the second or third round at receiver, and then you sign a Tooney, like the offense, I think is far. And
you could have the first round receiver, right? People keep mocking like this guy Bateman to the Jets or this Ohio State receiver Chris Olave. Don't forget the Jets are going to have early second round pick and a late first round pick too. One of those picks could be a receiver.
Allen Robinson is underrated. Allen Robinson is a top 10 receiver in the NFL to me. And he gets overlooked because of his quarterback. Somebody said Julio Jones to me is legit one of the best ever, arguably best ever talent wise. No joke. Him and Owens. I would say him, Owens, and Calvin Johnson. Calvin Johnson's absolutely ridiculous as well with that stuff. Yeah, let's go after a receiver coming after a serious injury. Great movie. Yeah, no, I don't agree with getting OBJ. All right, drop some more questions. If not, we're going to wrap. Kyle, is there anything you want to discuss? Again, we'll wait for some more questions, then we'll wrap it up because we usually end it at about 9. But
yeah, I mean, shit, I wrote a lot of stuff down.
Oh god,
damn. Well,
let's do some lightning round with your questions because they might not be important in 2-3 weeks.
Hold on. I just want to prioritize, I guess, whatever we want to talk about. Why don't you take a question or something like that while I think of what I'll mention.
Love Robinson. Yeah, I remember that. Love Robinson out of the draft, but I think that was the year we drafted Shaq Evans. Was that the same year they drafted Shaq Evans? Because that was the Izek. He was a part of the Izek 12, right? Was Hackenberg was a part of that Izek 12?
No.
A different year.
No,
right?
Hackenberg was a McCagnon pick. 2016 was Hackenberg, second round.
Oh yeah, you're right. That I still can't believe we drafted a quarterback in the second round who didn't play one snap in an NFL regular season game, at least for the Jets. That's absolutely ridiculous. Giants scored a touchdown. This is positive. Oh yeah. So another question I want to
They
ask you.
did, yes.
And so this all depends on who's there, Kyle. And this, you could kind of delay getting your question up or whatever, but it all depends on who's there, what corners there, what outside linebackers there, what receivers there. How much would you be against the Jets picking? Let's say the Seahawks finish with the 30th pick. You draft Lawrence number 1. Travis Etienne is sitting there at the end of the first round with the first pick. I mean the end of the first round. Would you take him and pair him up with Lawrence?
I don't give too much of a shit about the pairing of college players that played with each other. And plus, who gives a shit? Okay, receiver and quarterback chemistry, that matters a lot more. Timing of the route. When is he going to break, right? Does he know where I want him to run to open grass when I scramble? A running back, you're handing him off the ball or you're throwing him a screen. I don't give a shit about the chemistry there.
Listen, some people have said that Etienne has been really, really good, obviously, from everything
he is good.
Everybody's saying, but at the same time,
he's
a running back. It's the least important position in football. You need corners, you need outside linebackers, you need offensive linemen, you need wide receivers before you need a running back. So I don't agree with that. Quick, I asked for some questions. Let's go through these really quick. Will Gase get fired, or do you think he'll last all season long? Do you think if the Jets get blown out or get beat by the Pats, he gets fired on the bye week? I think they roll them all year.
Tony Pauline was saying Gase might get fired by early November.
Well, I saw that there was questions about it after the Broncos game though too.
It's early November.
He's not. He
got his ass kicked for how many weeks in a row? He's still not fired.
He's not reliable.
I think they're going to stick it out with him as they should.
For Pierre Desir, if you can get something for Jordan Willis, then yes, you can get something for Pierre Desir because he could be a fourth string guy. Thoughts on Frank Lamar's film this year? Awesome, super powerful in a straight line. Really good arm over move or like cross chop arm over.
He's also not bad. He's also not bad from rushing as a DN.
I like him best at 3 tech in terms of rushing.
I'm just saying, he shows you more as a 5 tech than from a pass rushing standpoint than Leonard Williams ever showed you from a 5 tech pass rushing.
Fields or Lance, Jack Compton. Fields. So far, what I've seen, for what I've heard,
I couldn't say. I've only seen one play.
Yeah, again, if you're new to the channel, I don't like giving out opinions, and trust me, this is like 99% of things you're gonna listen to. I don't like giving out opinions on film I haven't watched extensively, so I'm not gonna say it definitely. But so with that, I'll say probably Fields on everything I've been hearing. Kyle, what do you want to throw out there?
All right, so I figured it's a Quinton heavy show because of all the Quinton trade talk potentially, but I just wanted to say something. Like, I feel like with Quinton, it's he's not a bad athlete. He ran a 4.83, but there's a reason why he didn't run some of the other drills at the combine. He's not a great athlete, if we're being honest. When you draft a D tackle at 3 overall, you'd probably expect him to be a little bit better of an athlete than Quinton is. Quinton wins with good technique and his brain. All right.
I think we talked about this last time. I think he's explosive in a straight line, and he plays with good leverage. I don't think he's a lateral athlete.
Yeah, so one of the things that I've been noticing over watching him closely is he struggles if he doesn't win early in the rep. Like, he's not one of those, like, if he doesn't have good technique and a good burst off the line of scrimmage from the bat, he's not going to win in that rep. I feel like if a lineman gets a good shot on him, Quinton's lost the rep, in my opinion. I don't know if you're seeing the same thing.
Yeah, there's not a lot of
I think arm length plays a little bit in it because Quinton doesn't have long arms. And go ahead.
Yeah, and this wasn't necessarily to combat what you're saying. I just was pulling up a Quinton play because you're talking about Quinton.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I agree. It's usually him winning initially. It's not necessarily like a secondary or third move that he'll win with. So in the run game, he's good at re-leveraging and making plays in the run game once he doesn't win initially. Point. So I'm going to say in the run game he wins after this. If he doesn't win it very early into the rep, but in the pass game I'll agree with that. But in the run game I wouldn't agree with that necessarily.
One thing I wrote down while talking about Quinton is like, I feel like he didn't wrestle, but I feel like he would make a good wrestler, like, because he's very good at rolling his hips. And if you know anything about wrestlers, there's a lot of, swinging your hips to be able to throw the guy and stuff. He's good at that. It is fun to watch him string together moves and roll his hips and throw people aside. is fun.
He does consistently play with really, really good leverage, which I think is something that's different from last year, where he was playing a little bit high last year. I think he's thinking a little bit, but this year he really is doing a good job getting tight elbows, getting his hands into guys, and exploding through them type deal, which is why you see a lot of penetration, 3-4 yards into the backfield. And again, a lot of those hidden production plays, which I could pull up plenty, where he's forcing a running back to cut back or bounce it really early into the rep where they don't necessarily want to. But there's plays that people don't see. Again, if you don't watch the show, that's on you. I appreciate you for watching the live stream, but plays like this, like in the game, that people aren't going to notice on broadcast because it just looked like a play that whatever the end result was. Oh, he threw the ball out of bounds, but they don't see that in the play. What happens is Marcus May gets spun. Could have easily been a post for a touchdown right here. And because Quinton Williams got pressure, Allen had to roll out to the right. Now, could have Allen have stayed in the pocket, drifted over, through this post where he beat May? Yeah, sure. But Quinton Williams definitely made a move right here. And that's maybe why he doesn't see this. This is people, oh, well, he didn't really do anything on this play. This is not a stat. Was this an effective play? Yes, because he was getting into his face and he, forced him to roll out. Or again, you have Marcus May, who was wide open, or who let a guy wide open right here because he gets spun. He plays this terribly, Marcus May, by the way. But it's a thing like that matter. But again, run game, I wouldn't agree with that statement. Pass game, I'll agree that he doesn't win. If he's beat initially.
Another thing I wrote about him is which game was this in? Was from the Bills game.
So he asks, is Bryce Hall still hurt this year? Yeah, he's coming back though relatively soon, which I'm really excited to see him too.
Second play of the fourth quarter, Quinton got completely bitched on a double team. Play went for a first down, completely taken out of his gap. And one thing I wrote down is I think his functional strength is far from elite. Like, he was an elite prospect coming out, but functional strength is not something like, technique and playing with leverage, but that natural kind of strength, it isn't there with him.
Yeah. Cause I can pull up plays of him. What was it? The tackle that he had, hold on, let me run stuff. Is this it? No, this isn't it. So I agree with that his functional strength in terms of being a top tier defensive tackle, but he's only 300 pounds. So I'm not gonna he's not gonna play like a guy who's Michael Pierce or anything like that. But yeah, more of himself anchoring down is more technique and leverage than it is actual, strength. So I agree with that too.
Hey, one thing about Becton. So I was making the point earlier that okay, it's understandable that, he's going to, and every offensive lineman loses on reps. Oh, this is nice.
Yes. So this is him taking on a double. So and honestly, there's some plays whether it be guy getting beating coverage, a guy getting locked up, where it's going to happen. As a defensive lineman, even if you're strong, you're going to get knocked off your spot if two full 300-pound guys get into your hip, attack you properly with leverage, proper hand placement. So there is plays of that, but I would agree with you that he's not a plus strength guy, but when he has good technique, which on this play, he does exactly what he's supposed to do. He takes on the post man, gets his hands inside, works off his insteps, drops his weight. Does a really, really good job holding up right there, and then shutting for the tackle. So, but continue.
I don't have anything else to say about him. I would. One thing I'll say about Jordan Jenkins, we mentioned him a little bit earlier, how disappointing he's been. Yeah, ever since week 1 last year, Jordan Jenkins had a nice pass rush rep against Deion Dawkins, got the strip sack on Josh Allen, just recovered. Ever since then, Deion Dawkins has made Jordan Jenkins into his bitch. He completely shut down Jordan Jenkins in this game and even washed him out in the run game too.
Yeah.
Like we know Jordan Jenkins, isn't the best pass rusher in the world because of lack of athleticism, even though, he's developed his moves over the years. But man, Deion Dawkins made him look really bad in this game.
Two questions. Vaughn Parker and Lester Phillip asked, "What's your take on Perrine?" Liked him I liked him more than other people coming out of the draft. I think he could be a decent number. I think he could be like a Powell type player. But to be completely honest, so far this year he's been disappointing. In my opinion, in terms of reading holes and things like that. I saw somebody, I'm not gonna say their name, on Twitter say that he has a really good vision. I don't agree with that yet. But he has, I think he obviously can develop. He's a fourth round guy in his rookie year, so he can develop. But can he be number 2? Yes, I think so. I don't think he'll ever be like the lead back type guy, but as a 1-2 punch in a backfield, I think he could be that. So far, he's been a little bit disappointing to me. That's my opinion on him.
Yeah, I'm pretty much with you, but I need to see a lot more of him yet before I can
I
say
agree
more.
with that. Yeah.
I will say, so I was talking about Becton and how it's understandable that he would lose to a crafty pass rusher, a guy who's kind of really, made his way in the league as a pass rusher, and Addison. But, second round pick, AJ Epinesa, he was known more as kind of like a guy with maybe some pass rushing ability, but mostly as like a guy who's solid against the run. He even beat Becton on a pass rush rep in the Bills game, which was a little bit disappointing. And everyone's going to lose pass rush reps, but yeah, this Bills game was not Becton's best game for sure. It was his worst.
So we say if Lawrence received the same injury that Tua did, does he still go number 1 overall? Obviously, it depends on when the injury was, but yes, I think Tua goes number 1 overall last year if Burrow was not there. So, and Lawrence is a much better prospect than Tua was.
Oh yeah, not even close.
Yeah,
you cannot compare their arm strength. I got curious, Joe, and I think I generally know, but what's your take on Udoka?
He's bad.
Yeah, he's bad. I think he sucks.
He's weak. His technique is lacking.
People praise his feet, but
weird.
I think he is.
He's so high waisted.
Like he can move his feet quick for a guy his size, but they're not necessarily moving quickly in the way that you want them to move. He's so off balance many times.
He's top heavy. Like he's so like long legged and like just bad. Like he doesn't have enough strength. And people are like, oh, well, just move him inside the guard. You know how bad he would get? He'd get absolutely destroyed. He'd get eaten alive. I see it all the time. Just move him in the guard, man. It's really easy. It's not Madden where you move him and he's a 76 as a right tackle and goes to a 75 at guard. Like that's not what happens. Like it's a completely different position. He would get eaten alive by 330-pound defensive tackles. Absolutely destroyed.
All right. Hey, you were asking me about Greg Williams earlier, and I thought about his defense and stuff. I noticed several times late in that Cardinals game him getting outcoached. So Kingsbury was doing several times where he was motioning guys in and out, and several times late in the game when the Cardinals started gashing some runs, the Cardinals had more blockers than Williams had in the box. And that's how if you can ever get a numbers advantage like that in the run game, you're going to crack big runs.
And I'm not coaches. And obviously, yeah, you want to get the numbers advantage, but coaches really line it up for having one guy free on the defense and your running back having to make one guy miss. Like that's how, if you can get that advantage where it's 1v1 with a linebacker in a box, that's what you want. That's what you coach it up for. Somebody asked, do you see the Jets moving anyone before the deadline tomorrow? I could see them moving all the guys I named before, Desir, Perryman, whoever. I think they're going to move other people. I don't know who. Depends on who's offering.
I hope.
I'll trade anything but Becton, Q, and that's pretty much it.
And you don't want to trade Darnold in this for a first.
Didn't Udoka have a decent season last year? Dag?
No.
He was terrible at left tackle. He played okay at right tackle a little bit.
I don't even think he was okay at right tackle.
As a swing tackle backup, do I think he's serviceable? Yes. Do I want him starting? No shot in hell. And for a 3rd round pick, that's not good.
Yeah, I don't know. I watched. I watched all his reps not that long ago from last season. I didn't even think he was good at right tackle personally. No, I'm not saying I focused on him. I'm just saying whenever I watch, I always make sure to watch offensive line, especially a young guy like that.
We're going to end in 5 minutes. Kyle, do you want to do any lightning round with your topics, or do you want to save them or
No, I'm just scrolling through some things I wrote down, and if anything I'll say, I'll bring it up. Did you catch I wrote down just because we're talking about a lot of Quinton. I'm looking for what I wrote about Quinton. There was a play, 10 minutes 44 seconds left in the 3rd quarter of the Dolphins game where Eric Flowers, the one-time Giants tackle, bitched the shit out of Quinton Williams, threw him to the ground. You know what I'm talking about?
I have the opposite play where Quinton did the exact opposite to him, but I don't know if I have that lined up.
Oh, I want to see it.
Dark asked, Jets have a projected $56.6 million under the $175 million cap space next year. So $56 million with it lowering, and that's without getting rid of certain guys they're going to get rid of next year. So
What did he say? Can you say that one more time? I'm sorry.
what's the Jets' projected cap space next year?
You know the answer?
I just said 56 million. It's 56.6 with the projected 175, but that's not with them getting rid of certain guys they can get rid of next year, whether it be Fant or whoever they're gonna get rid of. So they'll probably have 60 to 80, I think easily next year. So
yeah, I wonder where that ranks amongst teams.
It's high up there.
Another thing I wrote down was I like Poole. I think I like Poole more than you do. But yeah, he continued whenever he gets a jam, like he's got really heavy hands. Like when he jams receivers, he really kind of stops them in their tracks. It's just something I've noticed a couple times. I don't know. I don't know if you're
Yeah, no, I like Poole. I just expected after last year to him have a little bit more regression to the mean just because of how well he played.
Which is totally understandable.
Which is what you should do with really any position, but especially corners too, because corners are so hot and cold. Trading
him would help the tank.
It depends on who. Well, I think this is the play I was talking about where he didn't necessarily bitch him, as you say. That must be like your school teacher thing that you're learning from the little kids.
I keep saying that. I keep saying that. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. This is another scenario where I was talking about from Quinton Williams, and this is another play where, okay, he drives Flowers really quickly, but back onto the toes of Fitz, but Fitz snap 1, 2, 3, fire the ball up because look, the Jets spot dropped and Avery Williamson was standing next to a guy who ran a hitch right next to him and he didn't match him because that's how the Jets run defense. So another situation where both Huff from the left side and Quinton Williams might have been able to get a quarterback hit or even a sack. And because the Jets can't cover, that's what happens. So that wasn't the play we're talking about. I was talking about, Q bitching, Flowers a time or two, but that's not the right play. So,
is there another word that you would like me to use as a synonym?
I used to use the word owned a lot when I was a kid. Oh, he owned him.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I don't know. Oh, what could we get for Poole? He would be difficult to replace. Again, with him,
that's what I'm saying. He helps the tank to trade him.
Yeah, with guys like Poole and May, and even whoever it may be, I would say Poole, May, Crowder, like the main three guys who could be here for another 2-3 years. But if Joe Douglas is looking at them and kind of estimating what their projected money per year or whatever guarantee is going to be, and he doesn't think he's going to be able to meet that, then trade them if he's not confident that he can sign them. But if he's planning on signing these guys long term, then yes, keep them. But it depends on his outlook. If he thinks May's overrated and is going to get paid $10 million in free agency, he's only willing to pay him $6 million, then get rid of him. But Poole, I think he'd fetch you. He's only has one more year on his contract. So he's a rental. So I would say a 5th maybe for Poole. Maybe a 4th at highest, but I would say 4th or 5th for Poole, considering his
that sounds about right. Yeah, definitely no higher than a 4th. And if you got a 4th, that would be very generous.
Kyle, anything else before we close it out?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay, so next, it's November. So the first Monday of December, we'll be back on with Kyle Smith. Obviously, I do a weekly show breaking down the film. This is more of a talking point show and interact with people on Twitter and all that stuff. This show is to interact with people on Twitter, to interact with people who I don't usually get to interact with because I do a show solo with no live caller. So I appreciate everybody tuning in, the 150 plus people at a time who are on here. So I definitely appreciate you. Kyle will be back the 15th of this month. Myself, Marcus Coleman, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Ask him any questions you want. He's a friend of mine at this point. I would consider him. So if he's not going to get offended or anything like that, he's a really cool dude. Kyle, closing words.
Appreciate you having me on. Appreciate everyone who took the time to listen and watch, especially during these times, because it's not too much to be optimistic about. So, you guys are the true diehards who would sit through 3 hours or whatever of this. So thank you.
Yes. Okay. Appreciate everybody for listening. And again, we'll have the call-in thing fixed next time weekly shows. Check them out. Joe RB31 on Twitter. Kyle's at NY Jets Film.
I'm trying to change that, but I don't know.
I put up a ton of threads there, so you can always go back and watch those threads. And again, Marcus Coleman the 15th at 4:00 live stream. So be here for that. We'll fix the call and thing. I apologize for that. Thank you, everybody.